Bare knuckle. Come on. Fight. Invisible decoy. What? Test your luck. Combo breaker. Well done.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just
Martial art
Review.
BCHQ.
It's important for your mental mind state, your mindset.
My boy Jack of one trade.
Shadow counter.
If I knew someone like him, I'd have to either run away or kill myself.
I'm gonna cut my throat.
Do you know about me?
Bring me the big knife.
But also, I think even if you try to run away, like they got tapped on you, they're them kind of people.
Ultra combo.
They know when you're trying to run away as well.
No!
Bring me the big knife.
I tell you I won't do it!
Impressive.
I told you, don't fuck with me.
Danger. Danger.
Trigger warning.
I want you to watch. No, I want you to see this.
You want me to spell it out for you?
He's the American shithead who makes tricks with bricks.
Very good.
What? You can't do this!
Oh, jeez. Just relax.
I hope you know what you're doing.
I know this is not what you expected. You expected glamour and dancing girls.
And you listen to me very carefully, Mr. Whatever the fuck your name is. There's a lot of ways that this thing can end, and that is entirely up to you. But you can be goddamn certain that this thing is not going to end the way that you thought it was.
UK.
New Jersey.
Project. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this series are solely those of BCHQ and Jack of One Trade. The individuals involved do not necessarily represent those of any other YouTube creator, podcaster, or production company.
Follow Jack on Instagram at LaughingBirdsPod or on Twitter at LaughingBirds.
You better ask somebody.
If you can't handle an opinion, that's on you. Save your hate mail.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's early, goddammit. Alright, dude. You should know what that means. I had a whole idea for this intro, and then I just completely fucked it up because it's early. And I have not arrived at a point yet where everything is functioning the way it's supposed to. Here's the deal. If you've never seen this before, if you're new to the channel, if you're stopping by because you see a live stream happening, this is what's going on. Myself, BCHQ, reactor motivational speaker from England, watch movies. These ones are related specifically to martial arts, and then we review them. Last week, we did Chinese Hercules. Before that, we did Ong Bak. This week, we're going to be doing Taoist Master. That's what today's show is going to be all about. If you haven't seen it, fair warning, because it's the only one you're going to get. Spoiler alert, dude. So if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, go watch it. And then come back. There's a playlist on the YouTube channel. You can check it out after you're done. Or you can stick around, listen to us, see what you think. Maybe it's worth your time watching it. Maybe not. So now that we got all that out of the way, let me just give you the plugs. And then we can get this damn show on the road once this cat shows up. Laughing at Birds podcast every Saturday, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check your local podcast listings, people. I'm on 11 different platforms. Check yours. I'm probably there. Okay? Okay. At Laugh at Birds Pod on the Instagram, at Laugh at Birds on the Twitter. I don't know, man. I don't want to tell you follow it and all that nonsense. You should though, dude. There's a lot of good artwork that is up on the Instagram. I am a lot more active on the IG than I am on the Twitter, but that's just because it's a little bit easier. You know, I'm not really rapid firing off jokes and shit, so there's really no point. I do tweet out clips and shit for the show, so you stick around for that. Check that out. Terrible plugs. Merch is available, which I should be wearing right now, but I can't wear the same shirt every day. I do have to wash them eventually, man. $10 for t-shirts, 20 for long sleeves, 30 for hoodies. Hopefully, I'm gonna get some skull caps soon. We'll figure that out. You can hit the Twitter or the IG, place your orders. $5 deposits required in case you motherfuckers flake out. That is not negotiable. That money will then eventually go to the final cost of whatever it is that you buy. But understand that, you know, we got to hold your feet to the fire somehow. Right? So I don't want to get into this movie too much before this dude gets here. But you're running late, motherfucker. So am I, though. So I can't get mad. I had to message him a couple minutes ago because I had to take the dog out before I started this damn thing. I had to wake her ass up. Yeah, there he is. There he is. I had to go and wake her ass up, if you could believe it. Cat's asleep. Jen's asleep. The dog's asleep. I'm the only psychopath that's up and moving around. And then I gotta go on the internet and make myself a whole person at this hour. It's wild. There we go. Hold on. And on the stream. Oh, but that's no good. There you go. All right. We're even now. What's up, man?
You alright? I was just waiting for you, seeing if the dog was going to take your places.
This fucking dog. Dude, can you believe it? I'm the only one that's, well, now everybody's awake because, you know, I had to get her up. Then the cat's like, oh shit, there's action. Feed me. So like I gotta do all this shit, but
You're like Ace Ventura.
yeah, basically, I don't know how that dude lives. I couldn't handle it. We have one litter box. Let me tell you something, dude. It smells like there's 50 cats in here when she walks out of there, dude. It's a stereotypical cartoon stinkhorn. It's rough. It's real rough. Thankfully, we got a couple windows in the living room. We got to open them up. So, what was I going to say? I'm trying to place that. Taoist master.
I'm glad you said it because I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. So.
I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but guess what? If you're upset, I'm going to say it that way every single time. So buckle up. It's going to be a rough ride for you. I checked it out. You checked it out. This one was way different than Chinese Hercules. I think it's almost like it doesn't even look like it's in the same genre of movie. Right? Just because of how different.
Worlds apart already, like just from the straight out of the gate.
So how do you want to start? Do you want to start or do you want me to start? What do you want to do?
I don't mind, whatever. If you want to go, you can go. I don't mind.
Okay, well, I'll do it. I'll start like this and then we can figure out really like a jumping point into the movie. Okay. But for those of you that are not familiar with this film, if you're curious, if you've never seen it before, it's a martial arts film. I'm not sure really where it's supposed to be based out of. I'm not saying they didn't give us that information, but there was a whole lot going on in this movie. So you got to understand, we're probably going to miss some details. I should throw that in there right now. We are not Siskel and Ebert, so don't get excited, okay?
I think as well, because of, like you just said, how how much is going on in the film, I think most people would watch it and not really even think like where it's set because of how much is going on.
True. Yeah. I mean, dude, there's a lot happening, man. I mean, I don't know. Basically, the movie takes place pretty much in the woods, right? I mean, would that be a fair assessment to say that?
And the mountains kind of thing, innit? Like woods and the mountains.
Yeah. So we have a few characters that we have to follow around. I think once it's all said and done, I think we might have like 5 or 6 people that are all connected to the story that this movie is trying to tell. I mean, I guess the good thing about this film, dude, is here's how I figured it out. I found it, rather. After Chinese Hercules was actually a recommendation that was thrown in by the algorithms. And when I saw the thumbnail for it, I was like, why not check it out? I mean, I should pull it up, and we could try to do that later. I just don't want to slow down the live stream. But I clicked in and decided to watch it. And then immediately, the one thing I could say I liked about this film is it throws you into it immediately. Waste no time at all whatsoever. It's literally the credits start going and you're right in the story. Now you got 2 guys walking around in the woods trying to figure out, oh wait, nope. I think I'm getting ahead of myself because we start with the treasure, right? I think that's where we were at. Yeah, see that? I gotta be careful. That's how much is going on in this film that it's actually hard to even remember where it all started. There's a lot of magic in this one, which was
I think the basic there's a few themes behind the film in it, and I think obviously like the black magic, the witchcraft, and like voodoo, and I think there's quite a lot of symbolism in it as well, of just like not necessarily religion, but just them, like all them what I've just mentioned, like they're all kind of like intertwined together, and I think like it can be quite overwhelming because if you don't know anything about them sort of things, you're like, what's going on?
Which I don't really know, and I know I've seen a lot of films, so I'm when somebody starts cutting a chicken up and shit, like cutting the neck up and it's squirting the blood around, either 2 things are happening: some voodoo shit is happening, or we're doing some Santeria shit, whatever it is. But that's about all I know, right? So it's true though. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is happening here that makes you go like, oh, whoa. If you're a religious person, if you're a very religious person, this movie is not for you, simply because of some of the symbolism might make you feel a certain way. But I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think this movie is trying to get you to worship the devil or anything ridiculous like that. It's pointing out that there are evils, even in fantasy worlds like this one. But arguably, it's very strong power. But it does go to show you that, I mean, these people that were practicing this black magic were not to be fucked with. As a matter of fact, if I could, I just remembered talking about black magic. The opening to this film is disgusting. There's some kind of bug that is crawling around. I'm not sure if it's a centipede or what it is.
I thought it was a centipede. I was going to say it looks like a centipede, but it's similar if it isn't a centipede.
Like, it's not the one from Jack and the Giant Peach. This thing is not friendly at all. You can clearly see it. And they even have the sound effects. And I wear headphones when I watch stuff on my computer. So when you see the crawling, they made that noise where it was going back and forth between the ears. And I was in here freaking out, dude, because I don't like bugs, but it's crawling around on the screen, I knew later on they were going to employ the bugs, but so that's basically, they're letting you know right off the top, I think, while that bug is crawling out of the totem pole, that they have the ability to use CGI, and they're not going to be shy about it. There are some things that relate to Chinese Hercules in the sense of some of the style in the movie. For example, when people are fighting, they still do use sound effects for punches and shit flying through the air. But it seems like they have perfected it so it's loud enough to catch your attention, but it's not so loud that it distracts you away from what it is that you're looking at. The way that this movie is thrown together from a choreography standpoint, for lack of a better term, is just beautiful. It's just beautiful. These people made the the movement in this movie looks flawless. Like they were just born to do these types of things. It's ridiculous. But is there anything from the start of the movie? What was the first thing that really caught your attention and got you into it?
Well, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of it, but like
Mm.
I kind of believe in like spirits and stuff in real life anyway. So like the darkness of the film in terms of the subjects of like the voodoo and stuff like that. It reminded me a little. The voodoo side of it reminded me a little bit of Chucky. Because
Mm.
obviously in Child's Play and that they do that with like a doll basically in voodoo, and so that reminded me a little bit of that just out of the gate. But also like you were saying, I think out of the ones we've watched so far, this one was by far the most like crisp looking like production in it, and just like the shots of the film, like the close ups,
Oh,
the colors in the film.
dude, the opening where they have the lettering on the screen that you're reading, and it's in whatever language it is. I'm not sure if it's Chinese or Japanese. You have to forgive me. I'm an ignorant American, but they're panning out. There's a waterfall. There's mountains. There's woods. Like it looks fucking beautiful, dude. And even when they do close up and they go in and characters are walking around, you can see that they took the extra effort to make sure to find a place that looks legitimate. Like this is a real deal forest they're walking around in. I appreciate that, and I'm not sure when this film came out, but I will tell you that I think more movies need to do that. I
It
can
says
talk all.
shit.
Go ahead.
2020 it says on the description for it. It says 2020. So
What, dude? So okay, you know what? That's weird because I'll tell you the truth. This did not, outside of the graphics, this did not feel like a movie from 2020. I felt like we were watching a movie from maybe the mid 2000s with a classic storyline. Would you think that's fair?
why do you think you thought it was a little bit before nowadays? What is it that made you think that?
It seems like it's just the style of the film and the fact that it's just it's a tropey bit of a story, right? Magic, good versus evil, but I don't know why it seems like this is an odd thing. I've noticed it. I've been watching The Odd Couple lately, and I'll circle it around, but here's how I'm connecting it. I watched The Odd Couple, which is made in the 60s, 70s, something like that. And you can see people just talk differently back then. They move different. Where this movie was made in 2020, yet it doesn't seem like it's updated in a strange way. It doesn't seem updated to the way that it would be, unless they did that intentionally. They wanted to set it to where you wouldn't necessarily think of a time necessarily as much.
Do you think that's down to like the casting though, and like the culture of the film? Because it's like, say if it was an American or an English film, do you think that you would be able to tell more without looking at what year it was made? Whereas with this one, you thought it was a bit older than it is. But I'm just thinking maybe it's a cultural thing and like the cast that they chose for it.
You know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. I think the culture and the casting that's a valid point, simply because I think we do heavily rely on stressing a timeline if it's an American movie. Whereas this one, it wasn't so much about a time as it was a world, right? We don't concern yourself with what time it is. We just want you to take in the scenery and understand where we're bringing you.
Well, that reminds me as well. I put in my notes, but you just reminded me before even looking at them that I did at one point. I put down that because in the film there's scenes where they're under a spell basically, and they're like having hallucinations, and that kind of, when I first saw it, like the first bit in the film where there's a hallucination, it reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street, because they're in like a dream state, and they're kind of aware of it, but they're not completely 100% sure how to deal with it, and that messed with me like early in the film, because there's a scene where they're hallucinating and then they snap out of it, but after that I'm like, well, the scene's going forward now. I don't necessarily know. Like, I feel like it makes the viewer feel like they're hallucinating, because I'm like, well, how do you know now, unless they like make it obvious, when it's like they're in a state like a dream state, and when it's actually happening where they're not under a spell, kind of thing. So I thought that was very clever, because that happens really early on in the film, then it sort of sets the tone for the film.
I was just gonna say, you bring that up, and this has been on my mind since we first started doing this. After the opening, we can get back to the opening sequence, but I want to just kind of skip ahead a little bit. There are two guys that appear to be walking up a mountain, and they're going through a forest, and apparently it's a magical forest. They know this already, and they're going there for a specific reason. I think they have to find somebody, right? I think it's what they're looking for. They're trying to protect. So there's something going. There's a big part of the plot line that I'm an asshole and I'm forgetting, but you know what I'm saying, dude. Like, but these dudes are walking around in the forest, and I love the comedy in this movie, in the sense that there's an old man hiding behind a tree, right? Now these guys are walking around. This old man who pops up out of nowhere, and this does go right into the magic and the hallucinations, which is why I bring it up. But right before, say, the tree is right here, the old man is right behind it, and now they're coming and walking past it. He waits for them to get right here, and then he jumps out. He shoulder bumps into our two main characters, and then he's like, "Oh, my legs, you hurt me, you assaulted an old man." And they're like clearly they know this is a con of what's happening here. Like, there's no way. So like, look, dude, we don't have time for this right now. So here, why don't you take this piece of gold and we'll basically be on our way. And the guy's like, the old man is going, this is a magical forest, so you definitely need to be careful, because if you don't pay attention to what's going on around you, you can get sucked into a dark spell, or whatever he said. Right? Now that guy disappears. Now, I want to ask you, did you think that the saucer lady and the old man were the same person when you first seen him?
No.
No, I did. I did.
What I will say, that old guy, I couldn't deal with him. There was one scene in the film where he made me laugh, which is later on in the film. But just out, as soon as he comes into it, I'm like, are you having a laugh? Like, he's so over the top. I just couldn't. Like, it was good to add humor, I guess, to the film. It adds something a bit different, but I was just like, I can't deal with this guy.
That is funny that he was for sure over the top, 100%. That is hilarious. But I think that's what I kind of like that about, just because it's the fact that they know what they were doing, and it's almost like, in a way, through the character they were showing, like, we know this is 100% over the top, but we just want to do it anyway, so enjoy that. I thought that the saucer lady and the old man were the same person at first. Now, I guess back,
they do have similarities. Like, they're both pretty small now, aren't they? And they got like the similar hair and stuff. I just didn't see that, to be honest. But I can see why you would have like you might have thought they were the same person. Did you ever watch Power Rangers?
Yeah.
Do you remember Rita from Power Rangers?
You
Like
know what?
Power
Yeah, that's a good
That's who
call.
she reminds me of. That
That's a
woman in
good
that.
call. 100%. Definitely. Kind of talks like her too.
So
And
I'm
great
watching
to,
the film, and she
yeah.
comes into it, and then I remembered her from Power Rangers, and I had to look it up because I couldn't remember her name, and I wanted to have her name for this, and I was like, Power Rangers. So I had to go and look it up, Googled it, and then I found her name and that, and I just wrote it down because I wanted to mention it in this, because as soon as I saw her, even though she's older in this than the one in Power Rangers would have been, that's the immediate thing that comes to my head. Like, just reminded me of her.
That, and while the characters look absolutely nothing alike, they do have a similar demeanor as if you've ever seen the movie Thinner, that was based off of the book by Stephen King.
I think I have seen that, but like so long ago.
There's an old woman that gets run over in that film, which basically kicks everything off, and she puts a hex on the guy, and then he's cursed thinner. There's that, and it reminded me also of a movie, Drag Me to Hell, which
I've
had
seen that as well. I hated that film.
Me too. Couldn't stand it. The whole thing was just a metaphor for bulimia. That's all that was. It was
I
a
can't even
fucking.
remember it that well, but I do remember seeing like the cover for it or something. I thought that looks sick, so I watched it and I was like, "Yeah, this is crap."
Yeah, it was terrible. It was such a letdown too, dude, because they had such potential, which is a fucking shame, but often so many movies do. And not saying that I'm the greatest writer in the world or that I could direct a masterpiece of a film like Oliver Stone or somebody, but I mean, I think we could come up with a fucking decent story to at least not throw it all away like that. But to go back to the beginning of the film, once we open it, it's nighttime, and I do want to say this as well. I appreciate the fact that when they did have night scenes in the movie, that they lit them well enough that you were able to see what the fuck was going on. Too many times I've seen movies and this drives me crazy. I understand it's dark out, but
it's almost
you
like
know
you're night vision though as a viewer, isn't it, as well? Because I know what you mean.
Exactly. Like, come on, dude. The characters are supposed to be submerged in the dark. Yes, we don't want to see baseball stadium lights behind our actors while they're trying to be scared in the dark. But come on, man. Help us out a little bit. Jesus. But no, they didn't do that. They made sure to keep this well lit, which I really did appreciate, even though sometimes I had wished that it was darker and I could not have to see some of the gross things that happened. But the movie opens up and we have what appears to be two friends who have searched a forest for treasure that they have found. And of course, stereotypical treasure finding situation. Two guys show up to find the treasure. They're talking about splitting it, how rich they're going to be, that they have enough money to marry 7 wives for each of them. And then as one of them is saying it, one of the other guys goes and picks up. Oh shit. Okay, no, you're all right. There you are. One of the other guys goes and picks up a shovel and goes, "Yeah, basically, I'll split this money with you in the afterlife." And stabs him in the neck with the shovel and kills him. And his friend is like, "Dude, I thought we were cool." And he was like, "Fuck you, basically. Fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me. I'm out of here." Now, I don't know if it was because they stole the treasure. The way that I kind of read it, the movie was saying that if you're going to be greedy, you're going to be punished for it. Because now here comes the black magic to basically introduce us to the fact that they're not going to be shy about using magic and CGI. They want us to know that this is stuff that they're going to use and very often relies heavily on it throughout the film. But this black magic woman, Carlos Santana, comes out and casts a spell to bring out some centipedes like we seen earlier. They hold this guy down, and then in the grossest fashion possible, these bugs crawl into this dude's nose and they kill this guy, basically tearing him apart because he was greedy. I guess they don't I don't think make it clear, at least not to me. How did you read that?
Same way, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
the greed and being caught. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like, you're not sharing it with us, kind of thing.
Yeah, like and there was a decent amount of them also. So we do know that this lady has an army behind her. What we find out later is that she's not the head of the snake.
Yeah.
But basically, she's the dirty Harry. Like, she has to do all the dirty work. So after that, which is where we jump into the woods and we follow around our two main characters, one of which is the Taoist master, the other is, for lack of a better term, his assistant, his understudy, whatever you would call it. Apparently, that guy is very important because he is one of the last people of, I don't want to say a tribe, a clan. I'm not sure what the proper term would be, but this is the last dude of his bloodline. So this our Taoist master is basically trying to protect this dude. That's why they're going on this mission to look for whatever it is that they were looking for. And very quickly we see that the odds are against our main characters here, because while they're walking through the woods, oh shit, I forgot the hallucination. I completely forgot. That's the whole reason why I brought this up. While they're walking through the woods, our saucer evil character is looking into her cliche vat
Power Ranger
of
crystal ball.
yeah, exactly. It is like a Power Ranger crystal ball, except she's got like a witch's brew of something that she's got to stir around.
Yeah, like a cauldron.
Yes, exactly. I didn't know what the word was. I'm doing this shit, like trying to illustrate what the hell, But so she's looking at that and she sees them walking around the woods. Now she wants to sabotage them. What I find interesting is they could have chose many different animals. Maybe this is a culture thing as well, but they went with a scorpion as means to deliver the hallucination rather than, say, a snake or what any other type of animal you would find in the woods. Apparently they use this black magic that this sorcerer is using. If she manages to get you under a spell, it's going to unleash your deepest thoughts and desires. Not in the sense of having you act them out, but you will be distracted by your own lust, whatever it is. Like if you were obsessed with money, then you would have the fantasy of being surrounded by all the riches that you can imagine. For example, this guy, it was women. So he had 3 beautiful women.
Which is weird, because what we were saying a minute ago, when they catch that bloke at the beginning and kill him, we both get the sense that that's because he got caught and he didn't share the treasure or whatever. So for greed, but she kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, so it really doesn't make sense. I mean, unless like I'm evil, so it's okay that I'm doing this because that's what I'm supposed to do. Not really.
We read it wrong, but like if that is the case, it does kind of like contradict itself.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. Then again, I mean, there's so much going on with the film. I honestly think there's a fair chance that the director could have just been like, all right, that's done. We did that. That looked great. Let's move on to the next thing. And I think they just I think maybe the story developed around the CGI rather than the CGI developing around the story. But
I feel like a lot of the scenes in this film are they're good, but I feel like they're rushed. But I don't know if that's because some of the action scenes I feel like are very it's like they're in fast forward. Now, if you're used to seeing that in other films, you'll appreciate it. But I did make a note that there's scenes in this that I think the action scenes are good, but I think they're a little bit unrealistic. But I can get why they do them like that as well, because if it's in a film and it's action, and especially in like a theme they've got with like in a dream state, they're going to be
Mm.
doing stuff that you might not necessarily be able to do in reality. But I'm not sure all the fight scenes are even in the dream state. So do you know what I mean? I think for me, because I like realistic stuff, even though the scenes were good in the act, like the fight scenes and that, I felt like they were a little bit unrealistic and too fast. So like for the average person that's going to come across it and watch it, especially like the sword scenes, I feel like it's just too quick.
And now that you mention it, it actually seems like all the movement in the movie, not just limited to the fight scenes, but even when they're walking around, like any kind of movement at all, almost seems like the movie is in fast forward, but only like times two, where
Yeah.
it's slow enough for you to still see what's going on, but you could definitely tell things are moving, because when the women are circling the guy that's supposed to be protected, the understudy,
Yeah.
they're moving rather quickly too. It's almost like a fast carousel, the way that they were just circling around the guy's head. Like the movie almost makes me dizzy
It's a bit
watching
like
it.
the Matrix, isn't it? Do you remember where they had that similar thing in that? And I think
Yeah,
in that, it's been so long since I've seen that film, but I think
me
most
too.
of that was more slow motion when they did that. Whereas in this, it's like the opposite way. They
Right,
do the same kind of circle thing, but instead of slowing it down and then speeding it up, it's just speed.
yeah, which is, I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe that could be an attention thing, the same way like in American films, if you don't blow shit up every 2 seconds and show a pair of tits once in a while, you're gonna lose the audience, or at least they think. Could be the same thing with the culture where this movie was made, where it's all fast paced because we have a lot going on. We're busy. We don't have time to sit around and watch a movie in slow motion, even though it's not. That could be it as well. But
I mean, in my notes, I just put a note that I just read just now. I put the pacing of the film feels rushed. Not even 20 minutes in, and like a shit ton has happened already. Like, I feel like they could have built it a bit like more patiently. I just felt like I know you said you liked it, but I feel like the volume of it in the beginning, I think they overdid it.
well, it's not, see, the problem is I enjoyed watching it because there was a lot of stimulation. There was a
Yeah.
lot of things that were happening. I
I guess
definitely
it's a
would.
preference thing, isn't it? Like it's a preference thing, but I just felt like it could have still been as effective, but with a little bit less.
Like the problem is, dude, like I didn't mind it when I said I don't want to misconstrue it, and like I definitely it's not in my top films as far as the story. If we would have to, if I know we're not into the ratings yet, but this film would have to be broken down into separate categories in the sense of, all right, there's the CGI element of it, and then there's the storyline and the rest of it. Where CGI wise, I love this movie. It was stimulating. There was a lot going on. I appreciated how far technology has come for them to be able to do all that they did. But like you were saying, everything else, it all seems very fast paced. It's almost like it's afraid to take its time because it thinks that it's going to lose you in the story, which is not true at all. Like I was, it's a letdown that they kind of rushed through it because there was a lot of potential for.
But like you just said, it's interesting because you just said that they might have done it because they're afraid that they're going to lose people in the story. But I felt like I got lost because there was too much.
That's a good point. I think by trying to avoid losing people, I feel like he probably, maybe they don't notice, but they lost at least us. They lost us, not intentionally. We wanted to be there, just so much happening. That was, I'll be honest with you. I'm nervous. I was nervous to do this today just because of how much was going on in this fucking movie. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm even gonna be able to cover all of this. Like, there's so much going on.
And there's a scene near the beginning of the film where they go to that well, it's a shop basically because they say in the film shopkeeper. So and but I just thought it was weird, like with the plot already in that, because I was just confused already, because I'm like, because they've already had a hallucination. I'm like, well, are they still in a dream right now, or do you know what I mean? And it just confused me. And also the girl had like a. It seemed like that the witch's face, and then she rips it off like a mask. So that confused me as well. I was like, what's going on?
There's a lot happening. It's like, are you guys Scooby Doo villains? What the fuck is going on around here? It's crazy. I mean, they
Also,
show.
as well, I think near the beginning they go back and revisit it a little bit more near the end. But the master bloke, he has like a flashback of people like tied to like a stake or something, and there's
Oh yeah.
Was that meant to be his family members, or just
I think
people
so.
like that he was like friends? Because I took it as family members, but I couldn't quite work it out.
Me too. I took that the same way. That, you know, it was people that he couldn't save. He was
But that I
beating
just thought that
himself.
was very powerful, because I saw that and I thought, even though it's a whole completely different culture, and we've never known like living a life like that, I just imagined being in that situation, and I thought that was a powerful scene, like quite early in the film, because one of them in the middle looks like a little kid, kind of, and I don't even know if
Yeah.
it was, but like I was like, can you imagine being in that situation where, like, the leader's there about to kill him, and he's got this whole army, so you can't even fight against it, and you've got to basically be a witness to them dying.
Terrible.
I just thought that was a powerful scene, because at the beginning it only comes up for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then they go back into it later in the film. But that was one of the earliest scenes in the film that I was like, whoa, I thought it was powerful.
And it also an interesting thing is there are certain parts of this movie, things that happen in this film, again, similar to the Chinese Hercules. The language barrier only goes so far. Like, you can see there are similarities in, I've seen it in Indian movies, you know, these movies, American films. Name a country in the world, there are similar things. I guess we do all on some level share certain fears and things that we're afraid of, because you can see it.
I think, especially with like when they put family in it, because it's so easily like your emotions already, like straight away, it's like, yep, fuck that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like, yeah. But I do think, because this had subtitles, because there was so much going on as well, that was
It's
another
brutal.
reason I felt like I was just overwhelmed, and it was kind of stressful to get through, because I'm trying to read the subtitles to follow what they're saying, but at the same time there's so much happening on top of it. I'm like, I felt like I was at school, like in a lesson, you know what I mean? It was just so much to like try and deal with, take in, and make notes on it as well.
You have to treat this movie like an album. And here's what I mean by that. In the sense of, when you listen to an album, the first time you hear it, you're basically just picking up on whatever the lyrics are and a little bit of the instrumental. Second time around, maybe you notice a little bit more of the beat. The third time, you can hear all the added production and all that shit. This movie requires you, I think, to watch it 3 or 4 times, just to be able to, one time you watch it, you can read the subtitles of what's going on and forget about everything else, because there's no point. You know what I mean? Like, that's after the opening scene, when they were in the woods, once they reached the shop, after that I tapped out on the subtitles. There was so much happening, I couldn't keep up. I'm a speed reader, dude. In elementary school, before I moved to Ocean Gate, my reading teacher in elementary school used to have the entire class speed read. On Mondays, everybody would have to come up with 1 or 2 sentences about something they did over the weekend. And then she would take a stopwatch and be like, okay, now that all 20 of you, whatever it is, have written down something on the board. Whoever can read this the fastest, you get whatever the prize is, piece of candy or something like that. I learned how to speed read through that being timed with a stopwatch, and I couldn't keep up with the subtitles in this movie. It's just, and not only that, but the CGI is almost, I mean, not to sound ungrateful, but it's almost, it's too much. It's too much CGI that it literally, if you wanted to keep an eye on what the dialogue was, the CGI doesn't allow it. It's like
you got like pause it, read it, or skip back, read it, and then to like catch it.
Yeah, it's not worth the drama. I'm like, dude, you know what? Forget it. What's the point? What is the point of even trying to read what's going on? I'll just piece it together. Because it's like a child. While you're having a conversation, a kid jumps up on the fucking table and now is screaming and yelling at you, dancing around, trying to get your attention. You're like, dude, what the fuck? So, I mean, this movie is the perfect example of how you can take a great thing and completely overuse it and rely too heavily on it. And I mean, that's makeup, that's the CGI, that's the whole thing. What I liked about this film, though, the takeaway was at least the acting. I can say that everybody that was in it, I think, nailed it. Their characters, they sold them well. So as much as we're going to probably tear this movie apart, I want to at least mention off of the top that all the actors were very good at their job.
But apart from me, for the flipping beggar guy, because like I said, we'll go more into that anyway, but that was just a preference thing, because I just found him, I just couldn't deal with him. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. See, and dude, how you know there's so much going on in this movie? We're 46 minutes in and we haven't even gotten close to what the basic plot of the movie is. Because it's impossible. It's impossible. You almost have to do homework to try to figure out what the hell it was the guy was actually trying to tell you. It's crazy.
I think pretty early on in the film, they like in one of the first scenes that's the sorcerer bloke is in, like the main bad guy in it. He's telling like the village or whatever that he's in charge of. Like he's telling the parents, because a load of children have gone missing, and he's telling them that they have to basically sacrifice themselves
to a volcano, right? I think it was.
Yeah, I can't even remember, but I thought it was to a god or something, but it might have been. But
Yeah. No, you're right. You have to sacrifice. The god is upset because there hasn't been enough sacrifices. Apparently, the townspeople have already agreed to this craziness because they're like, but we sacrifice like once a month. They're like, well, you're gonna have to do it 2 times because apparently the guy's not happy, and I happen to have it on good authority that once you do that, the mountain god or whatever it is will return your missing child to you, which is
like, because he says like gives them like a time and a date or something for when they have to come back and do the sacrifice.
Yeah, like, good. Oh, good. I'm glad you fit us into your appointment schedule. You fucking.
And then after he says that, he's like, he says something else, and they all like clap and salute him. And I just thought,
yeah,
what the hell? What? So you're just gonna accept that? Like, you know, it's just crazy.
Here's what I liked about this is, again, tropey, but saucer lady turns out not to be the bad guy. Well, she is a bad guy, but she's not the main bad guy. In the very beginning of the film, I think it would have you believe that is our arch nemesis, when in reality, she's basically a glorified foot soldier. Going back to the dude you were talking about earlier, when this guy first makes his appearance onto the screen, he's sitting in the dark, completely weak, can barely talk, sounding like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. And apparently this guy survives off of blood like a vampire. Now, I don't think they show fangs of him. He doesn't drain people the way a vampire would, but they do make it a point to show you that these people are evil, because the guy is like, basically, I need blood. I'm in a bad situation. So then they take. God.
I just wanted to say, like, because near the end they've got like these people that they've kind of basically poisoned, didn't they? And there's about 8 of them or something, and they get the blood out of them. But I might be reading too much into it, but because there's children going missing, I thought, is this like hinting at like child sacrifice? Because
It might be.
The stuff that I've read about that goes on with the higher ups in real life about what's it called? Adrenochrome. Have you heard about that or not?
No.
It's kind of like where they reckon that they scare and torture kids, even babies, so their adrenaline is like a peak of like the highest it can get, and they drain the blood from the kids and they drink it, and that's how they like live longer. All these old people, like you see a lot of the rich people and that, they live for years and years, and they reckon that that's a thing that happens in like Hollywood and shit and just across the world. But aside of that, but I feel like that's what they might be hinting at in this film, because like in that scene we was talking about a minute ago, there's this, they say that there's tons of children that have gone missing. So I don't know if I'm reading into it too much, but because they get the blood out of like adults pretty much in later on in the film, but I don't know whether that was a thing.
They do show you that they're not afraid. They're not afraid to involve the children, which is something that even in horror films in America they really don't do. Rarely, they don't have the balls.
There's a few scenes as well, weren't there, where they're in like there's kids in like little cages and that. So
yeah,
I could only assume because like near the end there's something like a cave thing, and like he saves one and takes them out. But I'm thinking, well, why are they in a cage then? What are they going to do with them? Do you know what I mean? So I think it is hinting at that.
I mean, now that you bring it up, I didn't put 2 and 2 together because I've never heard of that before, but it does make a little bit more sense now, because if they wanted to, they could have easily just kept it to adults. There was really no reason to involve children unless you were looking to make a statement, because it clearly does. It clearly does that. But, you know, they show immediately, guy says, I'm in bad shape. They take a child who was in a cage, like, you know, he just mentioned, and they close up on this dude pulling a knife out, and basically right before he goes to cut the kid, the camera cuts to a different scene, but it shows you that they drain the blood out of the child, they stick it into a chalice, and then bring it to this guy, and now all of a sudden he's got his spinach and he's good and strong. Now our bad guy can actually be a bad guy who, I mean,
Because what you got to think of that as well, like the stuff that I've read about in real life as well. Like they do it with babies a lot, if they because they say that they're pure, like they're pure, like it's sick. But if you think of that, like when you're a baby, you haven't really poisoned your body with a lot of food and stuff.
Right.
So they're like, if that is true, I could see how it would work, because like I think it could cure a lot of things. But I'm not saying it's right, but like I could see in my head how it would work, because they're like pure human beings. Do you know what I mean? They haven't really got anything wrong with them yet. So
the
like,
amount
you can't
of
really get a healthier amount of like blood.
Yeah, the amount of toxins that are in their body, that's as limited as that's ever going to be in their entire life, which is crazy to think about. But, I mean, it is true. It's a good point. It's a good point, dude.
It's just sick, man. Like, I've done, like, I've sort of studied a little bit about this before, like, not even in films, but real life. So I just thought of that when this film was happening, because I felt like it was hinting at it.
See, I didn't even know. I'd rather not. I mean, I know it's fucked up and it's not good to ignore things like that, but I know shit like that happens. I just don't like to think about
it. It's difficult,
it.
It like just makes me feel sick just talking about it right now.
Yeah. just because you can't even do anything. You can't do anything about it. Like that's just it's a horrific thing in the world. If I saw it happening on a street corner, I would absolutely stop it. But the reality is that that's not how these things happen.
No.
Unfortunately,
It's all behind closed doors.
yeah. Ugh, terrible. But I mean, I guess that's good that at least it's being touched up on. It's unfortunate though that it happens. If this was the point that he was trying to make, it's unfortunate that point is overshadowed by magic and things where that point can easily be dismissed.
This is the thing. If you don't know about it going on in real life, like you said, it's just going to go over people's heads because they don't know about it anyway.
Yeah, I had no idea until you just mentioned it. Now I didn't even think twice about it. Like I was disturbed watching it in the film, but I was like, okay, that's the point. They're just illustrating how bad these people are. But now it makes more sense. With what you've added to it. And I mean
thought
that
in the film as well, it's interesting that the three main characters, the girl that he starts hanging out with, her brother, and the master bloke, after they meet the sorcerer at one point, this is the first time they've met him. They all walk away from it and they're all like, there's something not right about him.
Yeah.
I thought that was good because that they're going to have to work out what's going on for a large majority of the film because it's near the beginning, and I thought that was good because it's not like they meet him and think see him do or catch him doing something. I thought it was good that they're like, something's not right about him.
Yeah.
Then they have to then dig into it, and I thought that was good how they did that.
Yeah, and then later on they do show you that this emperor, whatever his official job title is basically he's just a master illusionist. That's it. That's all this guy is. So really, the funny part is, in a way, the way that I kind of read this was, I mean, sure, if you practice black magic, you will have power, but you only have the power to trick people into believing you have power, right? Like that's kind of how it came up. Like, for example, this dude, Emperor guy, is holding court for all the people. Like you were saying before, this lady is talking about kids are going missing all over the city. What are we going to do? Before he says, you got to sacrifice to the mountain gods or whatever, he's got a bunch of stuff in front of him. Rocks, things of that nature that are not edible, and he picks them up in his hand and he turns these rocks into food and drinks and stuff like that, or at least that's what the townspeople think. Since he has them all gathered into one place, he can easily basically just throw the wool over their eyes. So essentially all the guy is doing is just picking the rocks up and dropping them, picking them up and dropping them. But everybody else sees him reaching in. He's turning these rocks into bread and food, and it's amazing. Nothing is actually happening though. So I mean, I did think that was an interesting way to do it. It shows our main character is really the only our masters, the Taoist masters, the only one that can really see this, where it seems like everybody else is fooled for some reason.
I think it's because they've got them little balls of poison, aren't they, in the film? And I think that the town is already under a spell, because that scene is weird because he says to the parents, now you have to sacrifice yourself, and one of them's like, but like you said, we have already, and he's like, no, we need to do more, and then they all cheer, and I'm like, so
why would you cheer for that?
Little fight, and now he's back to being a good guy in your eyes. So I thought they've got to be under a spell already, because they would question it more.
That's a good point too, dude. You know what? I mean, when they started to cheer, immediately I was like, well, this is not right. Clearly these people have Stockholm syndrome, right? There's something's wrong here. But I didn't even consider that the townspeople are probably under a fucking spell as well. And then you're talking about the one of the main characters. We do get introduced to a woman who pretended to be a shopkeeper. They don't really ever explain.
Yeah, that confused me as well. We spoke about it earlier, because I thought it was the witch, but and then it's a younger girl. Do you know what I mean? And then later on in the film, this reminds me. I wrote it down somewhere. He I think he's just had a fight or something, and he's hurt, and she's like looking after him, and she slips a ball of poison into his drink, and he drinks it.
No.
Was it not poison?
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I called it in real time as it was happening. The brother approaches one of our added main characters, which is a woman. We don't know the names of these people. We're gonna have to, in the future, I guess we have to give these characters nicknames so that we'll be able to reference them. But
to be fair though, to us, I did put a thing at the end of my notes saying like I thought the character development in this, they went into all of it with all of them a little bit, but I still felt that they could have done a lot more with them, like each of them.
Definitely, there was more to expand on, and instead, they relied too heavily on the CGI. It's more about the CGI than it even is the characters they want us to care about. How am I supposed to care about somebody I don't know?
It would help, wouldn't it? It would definitely help with the plot and that, because I think you just wouldn't feel as overwhelmed with everything going on if you knew more about each character.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like this movie could be 3 movies if it took its time to do what it wanted to do. And I think if they took their time, I think people would give it a chance. I think they would watch it.
Just go into this a bit more. Explain to me that scene, because I thought she was poisoning it.
Okay, but that was the plan. So now, just to catch everybody up, what's going on? There's a female character who is posing as a shopkeeper, right? And now, basically, she was just trying to cash in on a bounty, for lack of a better word, that our master's understudy has on his head, right? But long story short, she winds up joining their team for whatever reason, right? Now, later on in the film, she has a brother who gets introduced, who has disappeared for years. She has no idea where he's gone to. She thought he was murdered. Apparently not. He's been possessed by the evil emperor. But we can get into that in a little while. He hands her a black ball, basically says, you need to feed this to the master so that he can be powerless, and the 8 emperors of whatever fucking world will be able to take over, right? Because we need him as the final piece for whatever reason. Okay, so what the scene that BC is talking about is the brother approaches her and says, we need you to do this. She's hesitant, but she takes the poison ball and she's like, okay, I'll do it. All I have to do, the brother tells her all you have to do is slip it into his food or his drinks, but he has to eat it. So, okay, now camera cuts. She's in their sleeping quarters and she's pouring the master tea. Now, to the untrained eye, it would look as if she put the ball into the tea and is now giving it to him. And the character even goes so far as to take the tea, sniff it, and then take a sip of it to really sell it. I knew there was no ball in that tea, because you could tell just by how there was no way you were going to take a moral dilemma like that and make an instant decision like this. There's no fucking way possible. I don't buy it. I knew it was a sleight of hand. I mean, they didn't show you right away. They did trick you into believing, but also you have to remember, if this guy gets poisoned right now, the movie's fucking over, pretty much. He's the only one.
Well, that's what I thought, because I did think, like, after, I was like, maybe she didn't put it in there. But then I thought, because I did think, well, if he's poisoned, like you said, like, the film's kind of irrelevant now. But then I thought, because he's a master, does it not affect him as much? So I was just arguing with myself in my head.
But that's the great part about it. I mean, essentially, she just did slide a hand and just slipped it into her pocket because she was like, wait a minute. She's having an inner conflict because I was thinking, I put myself in her shoes, which is, I think, if a movie is even written halfway decent, is what you're supposed to do. You put yourself in the shoes of a character in their conflict. My brother shows up. I haven't seen him in years. I thought he was dead. And now you come to me and you ask me to poison a guy that you don't even know, and you don't even give me a decent reason to do it, and I'm just supposed to la-di-da walk over and just kill this motherfucker because you tell me to?
Yeah, it's not exactly the way you want to catch up with someone that you haven't spoke to in years, is it?
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a long time. Do me a favor, take care of this contract for me, will you? It's dude, it's crazy. But I mean, I put myself in her position, and I really did think if that was my brother, and he said you'll be, if you do this, you'll save my life. If you don't do this, we're all gonna die, basically, or whatever the fuck bullshit that he tried to sell her. I would be conflicted by that because, of course, your main instinct is going to be, of course, I need to save my brother. I love him, and he's my family. But at the same time, this is some pet cemetery shit. Where the hell have you been this whole time, and why do you look like that? Last time I saw you, your pupils were not fucking red. Something's not right here. What's going on with them black veins in your face, sir? I don't think something's not adding up. You know, so you gotta go ahead.
Can we just go into like a totally different scene? Because
I know there's so much, dude. There's no way we're gonna cover this whole movie.
No.
Yeah.
But there's a bit. I think now I'm thinking about it more. I can understand why it's in the film if they're influenced by this, but I feel like they're influenced by like flipping Harry Potter because this is the most ridiculous scene in the film for me, where the master has to chase that old beggar guy through the woods, and he's flying on like a stick.
Yeah, like, jumping around, doing this shit.
I couldn't handle it, but I just thought that's like Harry Potter. Do you know what I mean? So I understand, like, if that's what they're influenced by, like, but otherwise, I don't know why they put that in the film. Like, I was like, what is this?
It's cartoonish. Almost
it's ridiculous. It's like bed knobs and broomsticks. Like what?
You might as well. You might as well have brooms. I mean, seriously, let's get a talking hat in here and figure out who's. Yeah. That too. I mean, why not? It definitely was almost a caricature of itself.
I get that it ties in with like the witchcraft and stuff, but it was just really corny to me. I was like, this guy's already over the top. Now you got him flying above the trees and screaming at another full-grown man to chase him.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I understand why they did that in the sense of we have this over-the-top character. Let's just make every characteristic about him over the top. But like you said, though, then okay, is this a comedy? Is this a slapstick comedy? Like I don't understand what emotion you want me to feel going through this film because now this is almost like honestly, this movie is what it feels like to have fucking bipolar disorder because every couple of minutes your entire mood is changing in a completely different fucking direction and you can't explain why or how.
It definitely like adds like conflict to the film that doesn't need to be there because like they could probably do it with like one or two scenes where he's like that and then have him normal for the rest of the scenes. And later on he's not as bad, but they've already done too much by then for me for it to change it too much.
And it's
already been over the top for like the first half of the film.
They kind of took too long getting into who all the characters were, but especially the old man, because they do get into it because the old man tells a story to the Taoist master of basically how we all got into this fucking mess in the first place with the emperor and everything else, where he's basically saying like, dude, at one point I was the fucking man around here.
But just that, him saying that he was the man, you've ruined that already for me because he's acting like a child.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, how did you? So wait. You're telling me you went from basically the second in command to a guy who is pulling con jobs in the woods. Now, I know what you could easily say. Well, the only reason why he did that is because he needed an introduction to get to know our main characters. Okay, but you could have easily had them bump into each other in town while
Yeah,
he
I
was
can
in
see
his
people
second in
saying
command.
that, but like you said, they could have done it so many different ways. It doesn't need to be that in your face and that over the top for them
Right.
to introduce him. I'm not
Yeah,
buying
no.
it's like you can't do it another way.
I almost would have, I would have rathered them met earlier at some point in the movie where they cross paths, maybe going through a market or possibly this guy is training. This guy's training somebody. Couldn't they possibly have met each other at a dojo someplace, whatever it is? And then later on in the film, you could have easily made it so that so much time has passed. The old man has aged enough where he could bump into this dude in the woods, act completely over the top, and the other guy doesn't even recognize who he is. That would have actually justified that scene a little bit more and maybe could have helped you digest the comedy a little bit easier, because it could have been like, oh, see, this dude doesn't even remember me. Like, I know that's not even the greatest, but that's just 2 seconds of just riffing, trying to come up with an idea for a better connection than what they gave us.
Just ruins like that scene, because that could have been a good scene where, like as you said, that's like the character development. You're learning more about him, and he's kind of took that role of like the granddad in the chair telling his grandkids about in my day. Do you know what I mean? And telling them
Exactly. Meanwhile, and maybe it speaks to the character of the Taoist master, but the fact that he sits and listens to the whole thing as if he's got absolutely nothing better to do. Meanwhile, his understudy is gone, right? The lady he's been walking around this whole time is trying to fucking poison him. But I got time to sit down and listen to this fucking story.
it's like Stand By Me, where they have the campfire scene in the woods. Like it's like, let's talk about life, but you know what I mean? Even in that, I take them kids and their kids in Stand By Me more seriously than this guy, because of how he acts before it gets to that scene. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it is pretty wild, dude. It's almost like the person that made this film went, all right, we got a couple of great actors. I have a ridiculous budget, so could we just write like a half-ass story I could throw together so I could use some of these cool graphics that I got? You got to see what these things could do.
There's a scene in it near the end of the film I just want to talk about. Is there's a load of swords basically start flying while he's in the cave, like at him, at the master guy, and he's this is when he's rescuing that kid, and he's picked the kid up. But I thought it was really cool. This is one of my favorite scenes in the film, because I don't remember seeing it in a film like this, like where they've done what they did. The fact that he's holding a kid and he's dodging, he's basically fighting. He puts the kid down in the end. But I thought that was really creative, because I've never seen anything like that. You're fighting someone whilst holding a person in your arms. I thought that was really cool, because like it's a quick scene as well. Like we were saying earlier about how the scenes are too quick in terms of action. Like these swords are flying at him like the speed of light, and he's dodging them and then fighting someone whilst not having his arms, basically.
That might be the most realistic scene out of the whole movie. And I hear you going, if knives are flying and the swords are flying at the speed of light, how is he ducking them with a kid? What I'm saying is, the instinct to, I have to save, it didn't movie us in the sense of, okay, kid, you sit right here while I go and beat up all the bad guys. I'll be right back. No, he had to hold on to the kid the entire time and try not to die. In that moment is that you could see how heroic of an act is to try to save this kid, but that is the most realistic thing in the whole film, because you would not put that kid down. You would try to duck all the danger and then try to get to safety as quick as possible. If they would have just applied that logic to the rest of the film, dude, we would have a completely different conversation. And
what also I've just thought of this now, that whilst you're holding that kid, because it's like people trying to fight him and swords like he's flying at him, that could easily stab the kid as well. But he's going off of like instinct, like you said, and he's not even thinking of that. There's one false move, the kid could be dead.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
The stakes are high, dude, and it's hard. Unfortunately, I feel bad saying this, but it's the truth. Unfortunately, the importance of the kid relies on the fact that it's a child, right? Because they don't go into anything else other, like, you have to already have that instinct built into you somewhere for you
to, for sure. Because like if it was like someone that's got no experience, like just an innocent person in a film, like there's no scene in it, like they're dead straight away.
yeah, like there's nothing that makes you hold on to this character other than the fact that it's a little kid. And if you have no heart and soul, you know what I mean, then maybe you don't care. But you don't want to see a kid get murdered for no reason, especially when it's avoidable. But it's unfortunate that that's the only thing that makes you care, is the fact that it's a child.
And literally seconds before that fight scene happens, he's telling the kid that he's taking him back home, he's saving him, and then all of a sudden that happens. Like he's just told the kid, like it's gonna be all right, and then it all starts happening. So that was probably my favorite scene from the film, just because of, like I said, like he's dodging things whilst holding a kid. Never seen that in a film before, and like I said, like the kid could easily die with one false move. Like the kid could get stabbed, or you know what I mean? Even if he carries on holding him, like he could still die. So I thought it was very creative, because I haven't seen anything like that before.
I'm honestly trying to think if of a scene that I would pick to say that it was my favorite. Honestly,
there's another scene in it where this is the scene I actually enjoyed with the old guy, because it actually made me laugh. When he fights the witch, and I have to find a note for it for a sec. I put, because he said he's fighting her, he's about to fight her, and he goes, what does he say to her? He says something like, "Get up, you evil witch. I haven't had enough fun with you yet," or something, and then he starts laughing. And I was like, "What? It sounds like he's trying to chat her up, but kill her." But also in that scene, she gets all the bugs and that start crawling out of her or something, and the poison. And she I don't know, she tries to spit it at him or something, or throw something, and he whips his he's got like this jacket thing on, and I thought that was a cool scene as well. He rips it off and basically like flings it in front of him, and it deflects the poison in that back at her, and it shoots into her face.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I really like how they did it, because it's like just the quickness of thought of him to do that and deflect it back at her, and she just gets her face covered with it. I thought that was
and it looked great. It looked great, but that's another perfect example of the way the CGI should have been used.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad like shitting on the whole film, but there's so much potential in this fucking film, dude. The way that they did it, the old man shows you that he's like, in that moment right there is where you can see his story checks out, because only
like he looks cool like for a second, rather than the bit at the beginning where he's joking and he's like being a little bit like gimp again, saying, "Oh, I haven't had fun with you yet." Like
he looks like he's carrying on like a Muppet, right?
But
That's
then
what
he does that action where he flicks it at her, and I kind of forgot for a second of what he was like earlier on in the film, until after that scene had finished, and then I'm like, but
then he goes back
like
to
a
being
kid earlier.
again.
But that just shows, like you said, the things they could have done with the film, because for a minute I forgot how stupid he was in the film because for a minute he was badass just with that move.
It's true, dude. It really is, because it's so funny. The over the top nature of his personality does not match his skill set at all whatsoever. It's
I'm not joking.
arguably.
If I knew someone like him, I'd have to either run away or kill myself because they're but also I think even if you try to run away, like they got tabs on you, they're them kind of people that are just, they know when you're trying to run away as well. Just too much.
It is the guy for sure that you see. It is the guy for sure that you see somewhere. If you bump into him at the store, you go, oh fuck, please don't. I hope you don't see me. I hope you don't see me. I hope you don't see me. Fuck, you saw me. God damn it. Now I gotta talk to this motherfucker. He is totally that dude. That's too funny.
There's another scene in the film where the sorcerer guy tells the village people again that because the children are going missing, he convinces them that master matey is the one that's done it.
Yeah.
And I thought, just you evil bastard. Like, I thought that was very good how they did it because it just adds to his evilness. Like earlier on we were saying where like he tells the parents and that they have to sacrifice themselves and they still look at him like he's a god. And I'm like, it just shows how evil he actually is. And then that scene as well, because he convinces them that the master is the one that's they like killed or taken the kids somewhere. I just thought, you evil bastard.
That part of the movie does kind of, that's one thing I kind of found myself not so much thinking about the movie itself as much as it made me question the decision making of these characters. Oh, I understand the Emperor is evil, right? But how do you get to a point where you accept the fact that you got to sacrifice people to this fucking thing,
And also, what doesn't make sense? It sounds a bit selfish, but ultimately, that parent in that scene earlier on is missing their kid. If he's telling them to sacrifice themselves for their kids to be all right, it might be selfish, but it contradicts it again because they're not necessarily going to see their kid, even if their kid's all right, because he's basically telling them they're going to have to kill themselves for their kids to be all right, and then they ain't going to get to see their kids again anyway.
And what's the point? It never really. They don't say where. Okay, sacrifice yourself. Okay, so does that mean that you then, when they believe that they're going to sacrifice themselves, are you then kidnapping them and sticking them in cages until you drain them for the Emperor? Because they never made any mention of that. Like,
there's a scene in it where it pops up a couple times where the master. Now I'm confused because I don't know if this was a dream state again, but he's on like this platform.
I know it looks like he's in hell. It looks like he's in hell, right?
See all them arms and that reaching up. I wasn't sure if that was meant to be children or just people in general because you can't
I think that was people in general, and that was his worst. That was his worst fear, was being surrounded by all those people, knowing that he couldn't save any of them.
And so that adds into like the spiritual side of it again, because there's a scene in it where he's like, there's two of them in that scene where one of them's like representing like God probably, and the other one is him in hell, and it like reaches his arm down to like pull him out. And I thought that was very like again like the symbolism of like maybe religion and stuff as well. I just thought that was very like Passion of Christ or something. Do you know what I mean? Just how he's like, come on, I'll pull you out, sort of thing.
It didn't know. This movie didn't know what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a religious commentary. It wanted to be a little Harry Potter. It wanted to be a fucking Three Stooges comedy routine. You know, it wanted to be a little bit of Power Ranger. Like there was a lot happening. Now I don't know again though, is this a cultural thing? Is that the new way they do things in 2020 because of people's attention span, where they got to stick 8 fucking stories into one film? But then it ruins it because I want to see your vision. I know. Are you telling me that you sat down, thought about a story, and went in 20 different directions? I have no structure at all whatsoever. But I could write down and develop a fucking character. You
And
know what
I
I mean?
just thought of something as well. I found this film so overwhelming watching it on a computer. Imagine if you went to the cinema and watched this in a massive screen. And the
I
sound,
couldn't.
the volume of it anyway in a cinema is just like you're at a concert. And on top of that, you've got to try and follow the film. Like
That would be
you
a
come out of that having a heart attack.
that would be a terrible time. Yeah, terrible time. I mean, oh god,
Plus, you've got idiots in the cinema that are just screaming and stuff anyway, because you always get idiots every time you go to cinema, ruining it.
Well, the only advantage to watching it at home on the computer was the fact that I was able to rewind 3 or 4 times in a
I had to do
moment
that as well to catch some of the subtitles and that. Like,
there's that, and even the action scenes, they went so fucking quick. I had to rewind it just to see what the hell happened. Like, wait, did that connect? I felt like I was judging a boxing match. I really did.
On in this, you said about the action scenes, like you was like, I like the action scenes in this, and I was already worried because I was like, well, I would have liked to have liked them, but I couldn't keep up with it. Like, I couldn't physically see everything that was happening because it's so quick.
What I did manage to catch, I did enjoy. Just the fact that they were able to move that quickly, I think is a testament to how good they are. But it also it robs the performance. It really does. I mean, I understand you don't want everything slow motion, Matrix style through the whole film. That would be boring. But at the same time, if these people have gone through months and months of training to get these moves exactly right, can I at least enjoy watching them accomplish doing it in real time? You don't need to rush.
What the ratings we give for Ong Bak was, but that's what I liked about Ong Bak is because some of the scenes in that were really like long fight scenes, but they were so realistic, I thought, and they weren't. You could see everything that was happening.
For sure, no question. I mean, honestly, I think Ong Bak might be the highest rated movie that we've done so far.
I can't remember what we give for it. Can you?
I think it might have been like 8 or 9. I think it might have been up there because I know the last one I think was like 5, 6, and this one seems to be heading in that direction as well. Because I mean, do you want to get into the ratings a little bit real quick, or do you want to cover more on the notes?
More notes, but I'll just have a quick look. If you want to just, I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about. I'm just going to scan through the rest of the notes I got, and then I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah. Because I'm not rushing to wrap it up. It's just to talk about the ratings a little bit and to go over the notes. It will give us the ability to just kind of expand on. I mean, I know we've talked a lot about things that we would like to have seen improved, but the CGI in and of itself, even though it was overused, the quality of it was amazing. We have to give the movie that, but it does go to show you how important this is. This is a role model film for filmmakers, no matter where you are in the world, because this shows you it doesn't matter how good your CGI is. If you don't take the time to write out the story properly, you're not going to keep the attention of anybody. And
I think well, I don't know. I was going to say the average person that would just take a chance on this and maybe go cinema or something to watch it. I don't know. It might be 50-50, but I think some of them would enjoy it because they wouldn't necessarily think that deep about the story. They love the action of it.
It's like almost like a John Wick.
Yeah.
Except even John Wick has a fucking decent story attached to it. This didn't even bother to give us that. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just I feel like you might be 50-50, as I said, but I feel like some people will just love action, so they love the film. They won't even care that much about the story. And then people that focus more on the story probably aren't going to like the film that much because there's so many like plot holes. This one's worse than the last one.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it does. I like that. I like that we feel this way because if this did come out in 2020 and the Chinese Hercules came out and would look to be like the 60s or 70s.
I think it was 73. I think it was like.
So a movie from 73 and a movie from 2020, that's a lot of space between both of those films. And it just shows you, even when all this time passed and all this technology, doesn't mean you're going to nail a story at all whatsoever. But I appreciate that. As a movie fan.
I would say I enjoyed the fight scenes in this. They did keep me, like, I felt excited by them.
That was the only thing that kept you rooted into your seat to even watch the damn thing, right? Because that's how I felt.
Like, I felt excited by him, but at the same time, I was frustrated by him because I'm like, this could be a lot better. Like, just slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, god damn it, man. Because you're right fucking there. You're right there.
Like, I think this one is more exciting than Chinese Hercules, but as far as story, it's not even close.
No, not at all. 100% with you. Couldn't agree more.
Like, we were frustrated by Chinese Hercules, how long it took to kind of get going. But
yeah, this one just was too. This one rushed.
You could keep the action scenes in this, slow them down a little bit, but add a story more similar to, well, even just the pacing of the film as well. Slow it down.
Seriously, give us a chance. Give us a chance to follow along. You're not like.
One thing I wanted to say before we get into the ratings is you find out near the end that all this blood and that this bloke's getting, he's doing it for because he's saying that him and like the witch and that are going to have like eternal life. And I thought, is that really the whole reason for this film? Because you want to live forever. Like, for me, that pissed me off because I'm like, why do you want to live forever? Like, I don't understand why you would want to live forever. It would be exhausting, wouldn't it?
Well, oh no, let's put a pin in living forever real quick. What is this guy's quality of life? If you have to,
exactly.
Like I know you don't have to kill animals to survive. You can eat plants. Either way, something's got to die so that we can live. I understand that's the circle of life. These things happen. But if you are so debilitated that you can't barely put a sentence together without a cup of blood, why the fuck, if that's the trade-off, I don't want to live forever, then what would be the point?
I mean,
what,
no joke.
so I can be a grand fucking illusionist?
I feel like the witch is in better condition than he is, and she's like the sidekick, and she's probably older than him, and she's like moving around 10 times the speed he's moving at, and he's meant to be the one in higher position.
That's only because this comes back to there's a great bit by Patton Oswalt called Sky Cake, which is related to religion and all that stuff. Not that I'm getting into any of that here. The only reason why the emperor is in the position that he was in is because of his size. That's it. It came down to muscles. It's brains over brawns, essentially, where this little sorcerer lady, she has the ability, she has the magic, right? Like, she's the only one. She put this guy in his spot. But unfortunately, because he's a beefcake, he now uses his size and intimidation basically to be like, you're going to do what I tell you to do, and I'm going to rule you because I want to control. But in actuality, it's almost like she's letting him do this. Because if what's he gonna do? Beat you up? And then the second that he doesn't have any blood, she could literally stomp him out if she wanted to, and there would be nothing he could do about it. It's fucking ridiculous. So why do you want to? That's a good point. Why
Which
do you?
again goes back to like the plot holes, doesn't it? Like the story and the writing of it, because it just leaves like unanswered questions. It just doesn't add up.
No, not at all. Not at all. Which, I mean, was there, you said there was some stuff in your notes that you wanted to get to, right?
It was I've only lit a few things, but I've mainly gone over the one I wanted to, which was just that last one of doing it for eternal life. I just thought, what's the point? Like you said, it's not like he's 20. Do you know what I mean? Like what? And he's got the rest of this time to experiment with, like, being in great condition. Like he's an old man. But I'm like, why do you want to live forever? That would be exhausting.
And to do what? To do what? To trick people into thinking that you're all right. You know what? Forget about the illusion for a minute. I'm gonna put myself in your shoes. Your claim to fame is you make people believe that you change rocks into food. Realistically, you're fucking playing with rocks. That's your claim to fame. Live forever for what? To trick people into thinking that you're cooler than you actually are? What kind of dumb shit is that? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, even if the guy, like, he doesn't even, brain is more advanced than this guy. What are we going to do today, Pinky? We're going to try to take over the world. What is this guy doing? I'm going to pick up rocks and trick people into believing that it's bread. Really? That's it? That's it. I got up for this. I'm sacrificing. Do you have any idea how mad I would be if I sacrificed my fucking kids for this asshole just to find out that he's playing with fucking rocks? Are you joking? Eternal life? Come here real quick. I hope that your fucking throat is slash proof, buddy, because I am about to wreck your entire afterlife. I promise you.
I did like the one of the last scenes in the film, you know, where they have like the tree and they have like it's basically like someone's carved out something in stone as well, in it, on the floor, which the blood goes. I did like that because I think that was meant to represent, like, because they've got like people in a sort of a circle kind of thing, and I thought, because there's like sections of them, there's like 8 people or something. I think that they were meant to represent like the roots of the tree.
Right.
I could be wrong on that, but I just liked how they set that scene out, because it's a tree, and then I think they're meant to represent the roots, and then the roots kind of symbolize in my head like the blood is draining to him, so they're kind of like veins or something. I don't know if I just read way too much into that, but when I was
I don't think so. I don't think so, because fuck, stepping on you. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. That was it. I just thought it was clever how because that's how I pictured it as it was going on, and it made complete sense to me. So,
well, I was gonna say that I don't think you're reading too much into it, simply because of the fact that this movie was really heavy on symbolism.
Yeah.
So it seems like that would make sense, and if you did read into it, wouldn't that be the point? Considering the vocal tone of the rest of the movie. I definitely don't. You know, it seems like if I don't think I could be mad at you. Even if you're out in internet land. Matter of fact, if I could pose this to the audience, because I'm not sure if there are going to be any diehard fans of this film, but maybe if you could logically break down what some of these things mean. And I'm not saying if you love this movie, great. I'm not opposed to you loving it for whatever reason that you love it, right? Save your hate mail. We don't need the nonsense. We're going to have differences of opinion. But what I mean is, if you're really a diehard of this film and you know in and out what the what the purpose was behind a lot of these scenes and the symbolisms. If you want to break that down in the comment section, we'd be more than happy to revisit this, in the sense of we can always take a small portion of the next show and we can touch up on this to better explain to everybody that is watching basically what it is all about. So I just wanted to put that out there, but this is the way that we're interpreting it. So, isn't this is the purpose of the movies, right? For you as the viewer to go and watch it and then pull your own conclusion away from it. That's
and
what.
guys, don't remember as well that I have to tell people this on YouTube anyway, with just other videos and how I do. Like, we've all got different opinions. Like, there's no point trying to force your opinion on other people. But we've all done it, and I think we get caught up doing it at times. But we got to stop acting like, because we have a different opinion on things, that like that other person deserves to blimmin' die and stuff. That's how the levels it gets to sometimes. And I'm like, it's not that serious, mate. Like, it's fine that we don't agree on something, but then if you like wish death on me and stuff, like, you got to take a look at yourself, because it's not that serious.
Dude, I just got one yesterday where a guy, because of now don't get me wrong, I did go a little hard, but it's unfortunate that people don't see that it's supposed to be kind of tongue-in-cheekish, even though I'm coming off serious, like, oh, this is the worst song I've ever heard. Some of it, like, obviously, it's sad that I have to break the fourth wall and say this, but I want everyone to succeed and do well. When I break the balls of a band or something, I mean, obviously, if I say I don't like it, I'm not joking, and I have no problem with sharing an honest opinion. But some dude, well, clearly you don't pull punches. Somebody didn't pull punches with you because you sound drunk, right? Like, what is the purpose of a comment like that? Or telling me that if you see me, you're going to knock the bottom half of my teeth out of my face because I don't like fucking Devin, whatever the fuck, Community Outcast song, right? Like, that's ridiculous. So do me a favor, huh? For the people that are gonna watch this video in the future, save your fucking hate mail. Your opinion and our opinion is not supposed to be the same. It's not supposed to be the same. It's supposed to be different. The whole point, go call the director right now. I promise you, he's going to say, or she's going to say, yeah, I want everybody to pull their own conclusion away from it. Yes, there's an underlying tone to a story that I'm writing, but the whole purpose of telling a goddamn story is to be able to make it your own in your imagination to some degree. What happened to that?
I'm smiling because you said about that, someone told you to check that song out, because I like that song. And it goes into, yeah, but what I'm going to say is that, notice what I did. You said it, and I like that song. You don't like it, but I've laughed about it. I'm not like, fucking die, you stupid dick. Do you know what I mean? Like, why do people do that? Like, the sad thing is that people should want to have different opinions. It should be a fun thing, and you should welcome the discussion. Like, we may not agree, but you should look forward to having conversations with people, even if you've got different opinions. But nowadays, you can't do that with the majority of people, because one of you is like, oh, die, you stupid motherfucker. Why? Because we've got a different opinion on something.
Dude, one of my favorite things in life to do was me and a friend or a couple of friends, we go out to the store, we get a couple of different albums, and we listen to them, and we sit and we debate track for track through the entire album, and we talk about what it was that we hated or what we liked about it. And all of us never agreed 100% of the fucking time. But that was part of the experience, what made it so fucking great, that you can look at your friend and go, bro, you're out of your fucking mind. How do you think that's not the greatest line you ever heard in your life? But that argument of just being able to do that, that's part of the fun. And y'all have taken it to a place where it's like, oh, if you don't agree with me, then eat shit and die. And I mean that, by the way. Like, I think a lot of it comes down to attention. You do realize.
I've seen people I totally agree, because I've seen people like say, "Oh, I hope you get cancer and stuff," and I'm like, really?
Like, you never, somebody that says that clearly has never watched somebody die of cancer. And if you have and you still say that to somebody, then you're a piece of shit. Just really.
And also, like, basically, this is what we're doing on here. Like, we're having. Like, so far, we've kind of been on the same kind of level with ratings and stuff. But there'll be a time where we do a film, and one of us will like it, and one of us won't.
Yep.
But this show wouldn't work, even what we're doing on here. Because can you imagine if we did that, and the first time it happens, we're like, oh, fuck you. And we never do a show again, because we don't agree on something. It's ridiculous.
I think people would go like, wow, are you serious? How old are we? Like, what is going on? You guys can't handle a difference in opinion? We disagree on goddamn near everything. But
even the music side of things that we've touched upon before, we could have easily been like the people we're talking about and never spoke to each other again, just off of the fact we like different music. But we both realise that that's like being a fucking kid again. Like, what do you get from that?
Not only that, but I mean, if anything, that makes me more interested. If you don't like what I like, then what is it that you like? I'm curious to see.
Like, if we liked everything the same, it'd be boring.
Yeah, but dude, the person I've been with for 15 years could not be more opposite. That she is everything that I'm not. She's 100% open. She can talk like sexually, whatever. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm different. 100% metalhead. Can't stand rap. I don't listen to metal really at all. But there are exceptions. But I'm saying, me and her could not be more different. But I think that is what has kept the interest for fucking 15 years, is the fact that we couldn't be more different. I don't want to look in a mirror all day, every day. I hate looking at myself. That sucks. I want to see like some different shit. I don't know where this all came from. Is it that, you know, parents went from raising their kids to sticking them in front of a television? If that's what it was, I'm not sure. Maybe because they're so used to being like, well, this is what I want. So, I mean, everybody just is going to give me what I want, because that's the way the world works. And unfortunately, it definitely is not. And it's sad that I had to say this, but I want you all to know, you don't have to leave a dickheaded comment in the comment section for us to have a conversation. I've had a back and forth with somebody yesterday about a Stone Temple Pilots song. And not that it's even just related to music, but, you know, I had an opinion on this, and the person was like, dude, you basically have it all backwards. And from that one comment, we basically just had a complete conversation about rape and the culture around it and all that shit as it's surrounded to the song, where that's what you're missing out on when you make a dickheaded comment because I don't like the same thing you do, instead of being like, here's the reasons why I like this song, right? Or this is the reasons why I support this artist, instead of going about doing it the way that you are. Because I would much rather have a fucking conversation with you and agree to disagree. That's more interesting to me than if we just blow each other all day and we like the same shit. It's annoying. I don't hang out with people that think like I do. Every person that I know that I'm close to thinks differently on some level. We have maybe one or two things in common, and that's about it. That's the way it's supposed to be. Get it together. in 2020, if you can't handle a difference in opinion, do me a
You're
favor.
screwed.
Yeah, go to the doctor and get your balls snipped, get your labias sewn shut, and please do not reproduce. We don't need more people like you in the world. We don't need it. You make this place a terrible place to be, and you're annoying, and nobody likes you. And they all say this behind your back because they don't want to hurt your feelings to your face.
I was just going to say one more thing on this before, because we need to get back into the film.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I've noticed on my channel, I don't know about you, but 9 out of 10 of the people that comment stuff like that to me, they've never got a profile picture.
Never. Not one video. They're the first
So I'm
one
like,
that'll tell you to quit.
Show yourself, you coward. Like, if you're gonna have the balls to say something, let me see what you look like. What you're hiding.
Not only that, don't tell me that my 550 subscribers is a failure when I click on your channel and you don't have one video. Go fuck yourself. At least, bro, you could easily throw a tomato from the crowd, dude. Why don't you come up here and get on stage and try to do what I'm doing, and then you can critique it, motherfucker. Fuck out of here, dude. But yeah, so see that we've even made you a part of the show. We gave you your own segment, you sons of bitches. But
the last thing I want to say is before we do the rating is like the final scene, like he kind of has to fight. The master guy fights like the people that part of the ceremony of like the blood sacrifice.
Yeah.
But and then like he fights them. And then he pretty much kills the sorcerer bloke within like 30 seconds or something. And I'm like, you are shitting me. So we've had an hour and a half of a film, and you've killed the main guy in about
30 seconds. Yeah.
What? I just thought, I can't believe it.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it was just
whether it's because he doesn't have like you said, he's not like he hasn't got a great deal of mobility and like life in him, but he's just had the blood, so it's like theoretically he should be
at his strongest.
Yeah, so I really don't understand it. I just
maybe he got lucky.
We spent this whole film and you've killed him just by like clicking your fingers. Like what? Just pissed me off.
Yeah, because you're like, dude, I waited this whole time for this? What the come on. That's like getting a big ass box. It's like getting a big ass box at Christmas, dude. You open it up and there's a fucking thing this big inside it. That's it. Like what am I doing with that? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Like, he even has that bit where it's kind of generic in films now, where you think they're dead, and then a few minutes later they sort of get back up. I knew was going to happen, but even that, it's like he basically like just does that to him and he's dead. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no, I thought it was a fucking letdown, like the ending, because like it's just too quick.
Yeah, you know what? Surprise me. You know, have a main character die of a heart attack, hit the floor, and have an alien kick the inside of his face outwards and just climb out and be like, God damn it, looks like I need a new body. What does that have? And then just jumps in a spaceship, flies off into the stars. What does it have to do with the movie? Nothing. But we might as well make it fucking interesting, right? Why do the same shit over and over again?
Like you can tell that this movie probably had a lot of money put into it just by how it looks.
I don't even want to think about how much the budget was to make this fucking thing.
They do all that, but they can't put a proper ending.
Ridiculous.
So that just left me in a bit of a sour taste at the end of the film, really, because I'm like, there's already parts of this film that piss me off, and then that happens as well. So I don't know if you want to touch upon anything, but that's kind of my notes. I've got a little bit of like a summary, which was I thought the locations on the whole, I thought they were good, even though it was kind of limited. It was like you said, it was mainly like a forest and woods and like mountains. But I preferred that to Hot Chinese Hercules with like the shipping thing. Um, the character development I've put that I think that they went into a little bit of everyone's like the main character's background, but not enough. And I thought it was like the scenes in it were really well shot, like cinematic, and just thought it was really good how they look, even though they were rushed. And the action scenes I've put were good, but too fast, and I feel like the average viewer would struggle to appreciate the scenes because of that.
Yeah, definitely. Hold on one second. I agree with everything you just said. I am trying to pull up the budget for this film just because I'm curious. I'm not sure if this is the correct one, but I'll pull it up so you can see. So check that out. This is John Wu Chi. It says the Taoist wizard, so I'm not sure if this is actually what it is, but South Korea, the budget was 12 million.
Well, even at the end of the film, you see like how they made the film, like a few little shots at the end where they're like doing the camera work, and they've got like cameras out on a metal beam thing going across like the little river scenes and that they got. But even from that, you can look at that and think, them cameras and then putting them on them structures would cost millions in itself. Like,
Ridiculous. It really. Oh no, here we go. This is the right one. So it was made in China. It was released June 5th, 2020. It's not rated yet. 6 out of 7 stars. Let's see, where's the budget? I'm curious to see what did they spend, or maybe they won't tell us. Maybe it's just a bad site. Damn, man. Ah, that sucks. I would have loved to have known.
I'm gonna have to go on there and just do the rating on there as well, just to flip in. They can't just get away with having no ratings.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, come on. So, I mean, I agree with everything that you said pretty much. I would, as far as the CGI, as far as the quality of the CGI, I would give the CGI a 10. Just because of how clean it all looked. Some of it you could tell was a computer, but I give a pass to that simply because we're still in the early stages of trying to figure out how to use this technology. I mean, look at what they did with The Irishman. You know, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it is a long watch and is completely outside of the realm of the type of movie we're talking about, but it shows you what computers are capable of. Unfortunately, we have to be able to catch up to learn how to use them, so I won't fault it completely. Storyline, honestly, there's too much going on. If we rate,
I didn't even put the storyline down, but I would give it like a 2 or something. Like,
I was just gonna say it too, dude. If we took each individual story, I would have to give them a 2 each, just because you're not flushing anything out. I feel like I'm having a conversation with a child who has just spent the better part of their morning eating a piñata, you know, full of candy. That's what it seems like this storyline was. It wasn't there. Acting was great. The choreography was good. It was sped up too much. You need to slow it down just a little bit.
so frustrating, isn't it? Because like you said, the basics of the choreography probably would have been, maybe, I don't know if I'd have preferred it to Ong Bak, but even a little bit slowed down, it's there. But because it's so fast, it ruins it.
See, and you know what sucks, dude, is if I could divert for a second, it sucks that I realize probably Bloodsport will probably be another film that,
Can't wait to do that. I'm excited about that one. I think I will be for the majority of the ones we saw, because this is one we've never seen. We haven't got that nostalgia for it, so.
Right, but here's the I can already tell. I'm waiting for people to be like, "Oh, so I see how it is. You guys only like American adapted fucking or British adapted martial arts movies." And no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is, because Ong Bak is not an American film, and that shit was. It has to be done right. Is all we're saying. This movie had a lot of potential, dude, but it fell short in the most important areas where you can't fall short. I'm not saying I would give this director another chance. I want to see something else that he does, and if he drops the ball again or she drops the ball again, like okay. But like you mentioned before, I like the ending where they showed parts of the behind the scenes and then putting the movie together. It shows you that the little bit of movement that you did see, it did show that they were moving rather slowly. So maybe they had to speed it up for it to seem like the movement was a little more realistic, but I think it might have just been a little bit overboard. So I mean, I know we've beaten that point to death, but you know,
Do you know what as well? Like the theme of the film, I thought was refreshing. I like that sort of stuff because, like I said earlier in the film, I felt like the dream state and that. I love that because I was a big fan of like the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, and even though it's a different genre, because it's like it goes into that kind
it
of
gives you a creative license to do basically whatever you want in a world where, because we're so limited, you can have scenes where there's no gravity for some reason, or I'm gonna be a hand coming out of a bathtub now, just because I can. But I'm telling you, in the very beginning of the film, we have this ability, so now you're expecting it, and you're
and they
hoping.
build it up in them films as well. It's not like every minute something's happening because it just,
Right, they don't overdo it. It's the perfect amount, which is exactly why the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot fucking sucked dick. But that's a whole different conversation. If you manage to do it right, you can't go back in and keep messing with the formula. You gotta leave it alone.
they
You
just need
gotta
to stop making remakes nowadays, man. Like for a little while, I was like, that's actually not too bad for a remake, but 8 or 9 out of 10 of them nowadays, it just ruins it.
let some people write some new shit. Hollywood is so afraid to let some new stories out into the world. I promise you, the movies that everybody loves, the Goodfellas of the world, the Irishman, Casino, even though those are all gangster films, we could go into horror films like Nightmare on Elm Street. To a certain degree, Jason, Michael Myers films are beloved by people, right? James Bond movies. Once upon a time, somebody had to pitch those movies as brand new ideas, if you could believe that. I know it's hard to believe and it's been a long time. There will be other great ideas that are like that, but you have to give people a chance to be able to pitch them, God damn it. Can you imagine the amount of good movies that we're missing out on because these fucking Hollywood suits are just too afraid to take a goddamn gamble, and yet you want to spend how much money on another fucking Star Wars reboot that nobody asked for? Or that
I
you
just want to
don't?
say something as well on the. I've watched a few horror documentaries before. Like I watched one on Nightmare on Elm Street, and I've seen it for other horror films as well. Like some of the older ones, even I think like Halloween and stuff. A lot of them films, like especially the first films of them, they had hardly any budget to play with. But look how
Yeah.
popular them films are now. They're like, do you know what I mean? They're like,
But that's because they relied so heavy on the story and the character
Exactly.
development, though. Like,
Exactly.
think about how crazy Michael Myers on his face, dude, is a guy walking around with a butcher knife. He doesn't have a cape. He can't fly. He doesn't do anything. Just a guy in a mask with a butcher knife. But the idea that this dude, I'll walk 2 miles an hour behind you, but I will get you. And I'll come out of that closet when you least expect it, and I'll stab you to death because you'll never see it coming. That's
Notice as well, the theme for that song, the Halloween theme, is basically about 3 keys on a piano. Again,
sometimes
simplicity.
Exactly. Sometimes bro, if you notice, the most successful inventions are the most simple. A couple of years ago, I was outside of my doctor's office. I saw a guy with a shovel thing. It had a metal piece that would scrape the ground, and it had wheels connected to it with a little thing on it, so as he scraped it, he could drop salt behind him. Great invention. How simple is that? That's all. It's the easiest. It's the easiest or the simplest ideas, I think, that are the hardest to come up with, because when you think of an idea that is fantastic, the problem is you're looking at it and you're going, that's too simple. There's no way that could work. But it definitely can work. You have to allow it to be strong enough on its own. And unfortunately, the only good thing about a movie like this is that it shows you what not to do, so that hopefully the next person that gets in line will be able to take some of the influence from this film, because let's not pretend that there were not great things that were throughout it, but it needs to be tweaked a little bit. I've seen terrible B-rated movies. I've seen terrible A-list movies, and we're finding our way to the middle is essentially all that we're doing. So while this movie is not going to grace the top 5 for me in any stretch of the imagination, I appreciate it. And I mean, at the very least, I'm glad that I watched it, for the simple fact that at least we got this conversation out of it, and we're getting to understand what it is that we're looking for when we turn on a movie of this genre. Whereas, like, when I turn on an action movie, I know what I want to see. I want it to be realistic, but you can give me a little over-the-top action, but not so much so that I tap out of the story.
Do you know what is cool as well that I didn't really necessarily know that it would happen, is that I feel like I'm learning by doing these, I'm learning what my preference is in films. Not even just fighting films, but I could now go into like horrors or other films, different genres, and feel like, well, I know that I like storylines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas before, I'll be like, storylines are okay, but I like action. But I'm more surprised on how more I focus on the storylines more than the action. Even if it was an action film now, I'd be like, yeah, but what's the build up?
Yeah, because but that's the interesting part of it, dude, is you would think the movie should be all about the action. That's what carries it. I mean, yeah, to a certain point it does, but it shows you the importance of building up these characters and making you invest into them, because you can have the coolest action sequences in the world, but if they're not being executed by somebody that we care about, then what the hell is the point? But that's interesting. I didn't expect that to come from this.
Right.
That watching movies like this would actually, that we figure out what our preferences are. But that's interesting. I enjoy that, but I like the fact that this is coming from this, and that's what's great about it. It's unfortunate that we're probably gonna get a lot of steam and a lot of heat from the hardcore heavy fans that like it, but hopefully people will see what we're trying to do. And not for nothing, even if they don't see what we're trying to do, I'm enjoying doing this. I like it, especially because we can break down and you can bring up some shit that I might have missed.
Yeah.
So it's like
you said something earlier that I didn't even pick up on in the film, where that bit where you said he's doing the town call thing, where he's got the village people there and he's got the stones and that. I can't even remember that, to be honest. And, but when you were speaking about it, I was like, shit, how did I miss that? But it's good, like you said, because we're going to notice things probably that I might do at a certain point where I say something and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Definitely. So we get to watch the movie twice while only having to see it once. Very convenient.
Yeah. And like I said, with the last time, you pretty much done it again today. but like you'll go and say things and cover pretty much most of my notes that I've got without me having to even go into it really.
And once again, dude, I come in here shitting a brick going, there's no way I have enough information on this movie. There's
Well,
just no
for this
way.
one today, like in terms of notes, I've got us covered, I reckon. Even if you feel like, because I did like nearly 3 whole A4 pages for this one.
Shit.
So it's a bit exhausting when I'm watching the film, but like it's good once it's done and then we do this because I can look back on it. It's not that enjoyable when you're doing it in the film because you got to kind of like pause it and write down some things and then maybe go back a little bit. But it's good to have it when we do these because you can use it as reference and then you don't forget things you want to talk about. So
that's the important part. I mean, I'm gonna start bringing a book with me just to have it sit next to me so that I can jot something down real quick if I need to. But you know, as we always do, once we get into the movie and we kind of break it down and figure out how we feel about it, get into the rating, we do have to decide what is the next one we're going to do. Now, I know the last time was a toss-up between the Taoist Master, which we just got done talking about, and Bloodsport. So I'm assuming that Bloodsport is going to be our next destination.
Well, we don't have to do that. What I would love to do is for people to vote in the comments, innit? But we're not really getting that at the moment. So I think for now, we're going to have to just pick them. Unless you've got any others in mind that you want to put it up against, then we could like maybe flip a coin or something for it and maybe do it that sort of way. I was thinking that yesterday. I don't know if that's a bit over the top, but I just thought if we both have one, we pick one each to do next. But then we can't decide what one we want to do necessarily. We might have to like flip a coin for it or something. But
I mean,
that was just something that popped into my head. But we don't have to do it like that.
That makes sense to me. I mean, that's honestly probably the most fair way to be able to choose.
I mean,
right?
I suggested Bloodsport. Have you got anything in mind like that you would kind of like? Because I said like Bloodsport. I haven't watched it for a while, but from what I remember, I love that film.
I haven't either, but I have to tell you, I watched the trailer. And because I said to myself, I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this in years. I don't remember. I remember what the fights, where the fight scenes took place, like what it looked like around it, but that's it. Watching the trailer, completely forgot that this story was supposed to be based on a CIA operation that took place between America and Hong Kong. But then Demos actually mentioned that apparently word on the street is the person that told this story is a habitual liar and actually took it from somebody else and exaggerated it. So I'm not sure how true that is, but I want to save that for the review because I want to watch it. I want to watch it first, and I know you're shaking your head, but that's a good thing. That means that we can get into it when we get there, which means it's going to be a juicy one because we already have a little controversy starting out before we even get into what the film was like. I'm excited because, again, referencing back to Chinese Hercules, one of the biggest stars in that film happens to be in Bloodsport as well. We get to see him in there. I'm excited for that. This is where the fusion of, you know, American cinema and the martial arts culture kind of mixes together, which is always a beautiful thing to see. And I mean, we're definitely going to have to see if we can find, I know you said that there weren't too many, but if we can find maybe some UK style martial.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some research on that as well. Like,
because
I've seen over the years that I just can't think of at the moment. But yeah, for some reason, I don't feel like we've got a lot over here, but I'll definitely have a look. And if you have a look as well.
Definitely, because I wanna make sure that we give equal time to everybody out here, especially because I know a decent size of my fan base is based out of the UK. So you know, obviously, salute to all of you motherfuckers You obviously I fuck with you heavy. You know, England's in the house right now, but you know,
Just
so
don't annoy him.
yeah. Apparently not. Apparently not. I mean, Jetty even said yesterday, like, oh, I don't even go in that room. Sometimes I don't want to get my head bitten off. Like, hey, look, man. You know, I'm wound up tight. I always have been my entire life. I don't
Do you know what it
always.
is? I've just thought of this, like Jack in the Box. I might have to call you that because,
Yeah.
like you just said, you're wound up. You wind this guy up, he's gonna explode out of the box, and you'll see it.
Just put a soapbox with a slinky coming out of it and my fucking head on it, dude. Oh my god. But yeah, all right.
What's up next? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Bloodsport is the next one. For now,
we need to
I
do
guess.
ratings for this because we ain't done the ratings. We kind of went on we kind of did like subplot ratings, you know what I mean, like the storylines and that. But we need to do an overall rating still.
Yeah. Okay,
Do you
so
want to go first? Because I think I went first last time.
okay, so I was saying this is a tough one. Factoring in CGI, I mean, I guess I have to give some credit to the fact that there was like 8 different storylines. At least there was some type of a story. But in the end, I guess, you know, I don't know if it was the lack of faith in the audience to be able to follow along, if it was the idea of having a big enough budget to be able to go over the top. I know that happens with movies sometimes, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this movie a 4. It doesn't.
Wow.
It doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me as far as the story is concerned. Technology-wise, the CGI and all that shit, like I said earlier, I would say that, to be fair, that's like on a grand scale of like 6 as far as the effects are concerned and the fight scenes, but the execution, every opportunity you were given failed. Every one of them. And I wanted to be there. I wanted this to be good the entire time. I sat through with subtitles and all. Not that I should get a cookie for it, but come on, man.
This is cool already because this is going to be the most controversial one so far.
Oh shit!
Because I thought you was going to go probably a minimum of 6.
Yeah.
So, but it's good. This is why like already it's interesting because this is the most different one so far. As I said, I agree with you on terms of like the storylines probably the worst out of the 3 we've done. I think. I think like the effort was kind of there for the most part with the storyline, but I don't think the details were. They didn't like focus on it enough.
It's a good point.
Now I'm thinking, I don't know if mine's too high, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to give it a 7.
That's fair. I can see that. But go ahead.
I agree with you on the storyline. Like, it could be lower just on the storyline. But I felt like with this one, the action scenes, because I said they were exciting, they made me more, like, into the film than I was with Chinese Hercules. Because it was a bit more just exciting. Yes, the storyline lacked, but it had me watching it more than, like, I didn't go back to this one as much as I did to Hercules, where I was pausing and going and doing other stuff. I was more into this one for a longer period of time. The old beggar guy, as I said, that guy's ridiculous. But I think as well, what I did like is, even though they could have done it a lot better, I did like the concept of the film with like the voodoo and the witchcraft and the black magic and that. I'm a fan of that, even though I think that they could have done a whole lot better than they did with it. I like the fact that they just went that route with the film. I think they overdid it, but I do like that was their focus to try and do that. But I think mainly it's just the fight scenes. Like, even though they were too fast, I think that they were exciting, and I think that's why I give it a 7. Just because, even though I think the storyline was trash, it held me enough and it captivated me enough when the fight scenes happened more than Chinese Hercules did. I prefer the fight scenes in Ong Bak, but I felt like this one, because it looked the most clean and stuff, it was probably more pleasurable on the eye. And then the fight scenes, as I said, I thought they were exciting enough for me to give it just above average.
You know what? That's fair. And I mean, I feel bad in the sense of I give it such a low rating because of the storyline, but just to not to beat a dead horse, but I have to say I'm not in that rating. I'm not including the places they chose to film. Right, the backdrops to the forest and the waterfalls and the mountains and all that shit was beautiful. And honestly, that is what those things throughout the film is what really kept me into it in between the action sequences, was how wonderful it was to look at and seeing cherry blossoms and falling, just some of the things that a lot of people would say are stereotypical that you might see in a lot of mangas or even traditional Asian style movies, but I enjoy shit like that for the simple fact that if you go to Philadelphia, you're gonna get a cheesesteak, right? Of course it's played out, but that's what they're known for. Why would you pass it up if you had the opportunity? It's the same thing for a film like this. I want to see the cherry blossoms. I want to see the waterfalls and the mountains and have a bit of a philosophical conversation thrown in my direction that makes me think about the balances of good and evil and shit in life and all of that. So I don't count any of that stuff when I give it the general rating, but that's how important a storyline is, that I feel like I cannot allow this person to slide. I gotta hold their feet to the fire, but I like the fact that we do have a low and a somewhat high rating because it just shows you we are judging it from two completely different angles, but you need both of these angles to have a great fucking film, and this one just
wasn't. What's interesting as well? We've agreed on like pretty much everything on this, but the ratings are different.
Yeah,
because people are gonna watch this and think, they're gonna have the same rating, and it's not.
Yeah. No, not at all. And you would think so if you listen to the whole conversation building up to this.
I love it already. Like, it's very interesting because we kind of predicted we're gonna have like maybe a difference of like one, and it's not. It's just the most different one we've had so far. And again, it comes down to preference now, but it's good because like. And wish like, shut up, you prick, like go die because you got a different opinion. Like, I'm smiling because this is our most different one yet, and this is kind of like, I like it that we have got a different opinion, even though we've agreed on a lot. It's still the final outcome is quite a lot different.
Dude, Bloodsport is going to be the most interesting because this can go either way. It's going to be horrific or it's going to be fucking great. I don't think there's really going to be an in-between. So it's going to really be interesting to see which way this is going to land.
I think as well with that is because I remember just good things from it. There's probably going to be bits that I go back to. Like I was saying on the other stream where like in wrestling and that.
You're going to be holding your head.
Like, yeah, so at the moment, in my head, I'm like, it's a 10. But and then when we go do it, I'll probably be like, I forgot about this. And you know what I mean? So
watch, we're gonna be seeing action sequences where he goes to kick somebody in the face and his foot only comes to like right here, not even close.
But yeah, I'm glad that we've got such a different rating on this because we both would have predicted, I would have said that there'd been maybe one difference in terms of rating in this, if not the same, and it's not. So I love it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, I'm even thinking about I might even launch. I think it might be a good idea to make this show, if it gets bigger and people seem to gravitate towards it, to maybe even make this show its own fucking channel with its own live stream set up and the whole thing, if that's even possible. But
no, I was just thinking, I don't know how you do it. You probably would be able to do it because you're more savvy with them sort of things. But like, is like create a poll. Do you know, like people put polls in their videos and that. I don't know how you do it, but then at least that way, like people might feel a little bit more involved as well because they got more of a say of what we watch. Because obviously we've been asking them to put it in the comments, but I think a poll would work better rather than just relying on them to, because they might not see it all the time. So I think if there's a poll and you can direct them to go and vote, I think that might work better. But I don't necessarily know how you do it.
That's true. Well, I'll look into it, try to figure out how to set it up because it's a good idea. I mean, the problem is, we don't know when people are going to see this. So if you watch this show and you enjoyed it, do us a solid, share it across your social medias. You know, let your friends know. If you think somebody that you know would be into this, share it because we want it to grow. Part of what is going to make this show great is the fact that we're going to be able to get suggestions from all of you, because there are so many good fucking movies out in the world, because even the bad ones are good ones. Because there are so many of them, there's no way we could possibly cover them all on our own. So we'll appreciate your input, but please don't get it confused and think that you can treat us the way Spotify is trying to do Joe Rogan right now. You can strike all you want. We're going to have a difference in opinion, but this is the basis of the show. So
please
if
don't
you're
suggest things for us to watch thinking that because you've suggested it, it's all sunshines and rainbows, because it probably won't be.
right, yeah, don't think that we're gonna kiss your ass of this movie just because you suggested it. That's absolutely not true. And I would hope the little appeal that I have and we have collectively is because we don't do that. We are arguably two of the most honest fucking people on YouTube, never mind the internet, because of the fact that we don't shy away from letting you know exactly how it is that we feel. So, knowing all of that, keep that in your mind. Share this with your friends. If you would like to see this on its own, would you like to see this on its own podcast platform? Maybe have its own YouTube channel, right? Like, is that too much? Or
also as well, no, I think that's a good idea. I just wanted to let people know that we're currently like trying to decide a name for the actual show as well.
Oh, right. I wanted to bring that up because Demo suggested in a live stream I did the other day, he came up with a couple of names, and I know I sent you one of them, and you made a very strong counterpoint I did not even consider. I'm just going to pull it up real fast because I don't want to misquote you. Okay, he said Tuesday Karate Corner. Right, and you said pretty good combo kicks. If we do call it Karate Corner, I would take the Tuesday out, as we may film other days in the future. And also with the karate, we need to be careful, as some we do may have no karate in them. Did not even
because I'm not an expert in like what, I wouldn't be able to necessarily pick out what is and what isn't. But if
me neither.
And then people get offended in that, that's not what we're trying to do. Like, so I didn't want to seem like a dick or come across like that, like if I did, but I just wanted to point it out because we kind of like limit what we can do if we name it certain things.
Well, no, but you did. When you said that though, like I realized, like fuck, he makes a good point. If I'm calling it karate, like I would assume to the people who are heavy into the culture, I would assume that would be the equivalent of confusing Star Wars and Star Trek, which I do often, not intentionally, and I see how badly it infuriates people. So I could just imagine people at home going, "It's martial arts, not karate, you fucking idiot. Get it right." So, you know, we're trying to come up with a name. Feel free throw some suggestions. And
Yeah, I'm struggling with it. Like I said, I said that combo kicks, but even that I'm like, nah. But like I said, I'm struggling with it. So if anyone can help and put suggestions in for ideas of titles, me and Jack could talk about it and try and decide on one. Because I don't know about you, but I'm struggling to think of stuff. So
me too. I mean, I did finally get the idea for the thumbnail, and I'm gonna have it. It's gonna be a different thumbnail every time we do this show, based off of whatever movie it is that we're gonna be reviewing. And then the problem is, the thumbnail will go on the cover like this. Will have the Taoist master for the thumbnail. The only issue with that, though, is that don't really help much for people to see it unless they're clicking on the video. So I'll be sharing it on my Instagram at Laughing Birds Pod and the Twitter at Laughing Birds. I'm gonna try to do a better job of that. I'll cut clips. If I meant to bring this up to you, be the last time we did this. If there's a part up here that you think would be good to cut out for a clip, Instagram allows me to put up a minute, and Twitter will allow me to promote 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So
well, this is going to sound a bit arrogant, but I watch these back. Like,
okay.
People like, you vain bastard, but like,
no, but you're supposed to.
Spoke about, and because of how we are, I look at it and think, oh, that bit, you know what I mean? We could have done that bit better or whatever.
Yeah.
Things like that as well. So, I'll watch it back as well. Like I don't know if you do it as well, but I'll definitely watch it back and make some notes of potential bits we could put in and that. But I just wanted to say that because people be like, oh, you watch it yourself. You like you're your own fan. Like you have to be, because otherwise you can't critique your own stuff and what you can like improve on. So I enjoy watching it anyway.
That's a good point. And to your point, I would watch it. I try to, when I make a video, I try to at least stomach 10 minutes of it. I try to. Lately, I've been in such a, I don't want to say a creative mode, but I've been in a space mentally where, like, all right, I feel like recording. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Where I haven't taken a whole lot of time to go back and kind of watch anything over. But I know what you mean in the sense that I do this a lot with the podcast that I record every week. As much as I hate listening to it, when I release it, I try to listen to it on Fridays before I put it out to make sure everything is in the proper place and it sounds all right. Occasionally, I don't make it on the Friday and I have to listen to it when it comes out, same as everybody else, but for the exact reason that you just mentioned. Not because, we're vain and obsessed with ourselves, but because I want to listen back to it to make sure that it's at the highest quality standard that it can be. And sometimes it's going to make us cringe, right? Listening back to it. And I'm sure these shows now, I don't know how long this is going to go on for, but I can promise you, if a year from now, if we're still doing this, we're going to look back at the shows we're doing right now and we're going to be disgusted by them, by how horrible they are. But that's the point of growth. It's going to be gross when we get there, but it's also going to be great that we'll be able to look back and go, oh man, look at how bad we sucked compared to how much more we've improved because we've actually, taking the time to look over this shit and try to improve it all. So understand that this is all for the betterment of trying to bring you all the best show possible.
But like you said the other week about like older films in this and that we've done, like we might not necessarily enjoy them too much, but we understand the importance of them because it's like the foundation. And at the moment, we're in the foundation phase of this show. So,
and quick question. I know that this is a martial arts thing that we've been doing. Should it be a general movie review, or do you want to stick to specifically martial arts? Because I've thought we were just talking about horror movies a moment ago. Tales from the Hood has been floating around in the media lately as far as like references to it on YouTube channels and shit. It would be interesting to kind of do a similar system with other styles of movies, but do you think that should be a separate entity of itself and keep this strictly to martial arts, or do we kind of fuse it together and make this like a hybrid movie show review situation?
Well, it's interesting because I was going to talk to you about it privately, but now you've said it, I have been thinking, like, because I'm a big horror fan.
Yeah.
So I was going to say to you at some point, like maybe in the future, I was going to see how this went, but like I'd love to do horror ones as well. Because even the example I sent you, like I watch these guys that do horror ones anyway, and so naturally, I'd love to do horror ones, but obviously we could talk about it anyway and decide. But I'd be up for it in the future. It's just I didn't know if you wanted to just keep, like you said, if you want to just keep it like this for now.
I mean, I'm not opposed to.
I definitely future. I could definitely do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not opposed to changing it up. I mean, to be completely honest with you, one of the reasons why I enjoy doing a podcast so much is the fact that I'm not limited to a subject, that I can literally talk about anything that I want. You know,
do you know what's great? It's like with music, that like artists that sign to a record label, they're constricted. With this, it feels like we're independent rappers or whatever because we're going off the cuff.
Yeah, like we come in here, we have a conversation about this movie, and now we're like, well, should we add other genres to it? Like, well, we can if we want. That's what we have that ability. We don't have to. We don't have people above us going, no, 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 only martial arts and that's it. I would like to, because I'm not the biggest horror movie fan in the world. I like horror. More of an action mystery guy myself, but I would not mind doing horror because I'm sure there are movies.
I think, sorry to cut you off, but like these ones at the moment, we're kind of keeping them weekly. So for the martial arts, I'm thinking maybe keep this like this for like do these weekly, and then maybe do like a horror or an action one, like we do it like once a month where there's the odd episode or show where we'll do not martial arts, but maybe do it like that for now. So we'll do like a weekly martial arts one, and then like once a month we'll do a horror or an action film just to mix it up a little bit.
Well, dude, especially I just got this idea, dude, especially because Halloween's coming up. We could do a Halloween special.
Do you know I'm such a kid that on Halloween I watch Halloween or I'll watch another horror. Even if I'm on my own, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I like to spook myself out.
Dude, every year I am a fucking stereotype, dude. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like ICP, but the one thing that they are fucking famous for, and I appreciate them for, basically Psychopathic Records as a whole, even though there's only a certain amount, whatever, it's a whole different conversation for another day. Every year I take their Halloween theme songs. I've made a fucking playlist out of it. We got the horror movies going on the fucking TV, the Jason, the Michael Myers, the whole thing. And it's an event every year, dude. And yes, I'm 36 years old and I still fucking dress up and walk around the neighborhood. I don't care. I'll do it at 70. I don't give a shit. It's fun. I love doing it and I'm always going to do it and I'm not ashamed. Think whatever you want. It is literally Halloween and a turkey on Thanksgiving are two things I look forward to every fucking year, dude, without fail.
I'm not kidding you. Yesterday, I don't know if you've seen it, I did a video saying, do what makes you happy. Because...
Oh, shit.
If you go on my channel, it's a couple minutes, I think. I went for a walk, and I was like, I think I've done it before as well, but people get so afraid that they're going to lose friends or get bullied or even from family or whatever. Because if you're if you're a full grown man and you like watching wrestling or ice skating or something, and you don't do it,
Yeah.
people tease you for it, like you're killing yourself. Like these people that bully you for things like that, it's because they haven't got any enjoyment in life themselves. They've got no passion or
Right. They don't have that thing.
Yeah.
They don't have that thing they can point to and go, I love that. They don't have that. So they want to take yours away from you.
I said, as long as you're not hurting someone or yourself, do what makes you happy, regardless of what people say to you. Because at the end of the day, if you're happy and they're saying shit to you, they're the ones that aren't happy. So they can tease you all they want, but you're actually, who cares if you're a grown man and you like flipping colouring or something? If it makes you happy, do it.
Yeah. Dude, for a year and a half, I've had people tell me, oh, you sound fucked up. You should be embarrassed looking the way you do, being on camera. I've heard it all. I don't care. For some reason, talking into this microphone to strangers, people that we get to know over time, getting to know some of the people that have watched my videos over the years has been honestly some of the best memories that I have in life. Just that we can connect. We have the power to connect with people that are fucking in other places in the world.
You know what's crazy?
That would never be possible.
If I met you in person, like this is gonna sound a bit gay, I think, but I could picture like we just sit up for probably for about 24 hours just chatting, even if it's about absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just through doing this, like I don't know, I just feel like I kind of know you, even though we don't really know each other. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. So I think like if we was in person, we'd easily
it makes
24 hours and just chat shit.
But see, if I as backwards as this is gonna sound, the whole blowout argument thing that we brought up last week, I think on some level, I would not have even bothered to even put that much energy into being an asshole, as backwards as it sounds. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? To get to that point, there has to be something there that is worth getting that excited about.
Well, and
you know
I said it to you the other day when we was talking about it. When it was happening, like, as I said, I felt like, whoa, like he's taking this way further than I was intending it to even come across. And I said to you the other day on the other stream, I was like, I hope this doesn't spoil what we had planned, because that was the big thing to take away from it. Because I was like, all this is happening right now is not worth not doing anything in the future, because it doesn't even mean anything what we're arguing about.
Well, why I bring it up though is because honestly, if I didn't feel like we were friends on some level, I wouldn't even have bothered. Wouldn't even have bothered to say anything. You know what I mean? It would just be like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, so in a weird way, I guess, without me even realizing it, on I guess a subconscious level, like I react like that to people in my day-to-day I mean, I don't, it sounds bad every which way that I try to put it, but hopefully you get what I'm
it's made me learn, like I said to you the other day, I've learned that if it happened again, like I wouldn't be stressing, because I'd be like, I just gotta let him like blow off his steam.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just gotta let him do that for a bit, but because I hadn't really I'd seen you do it, but not towards me. I'd seen you do it about other people.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, I'm not even 25% stressed how he is about it right now. So I was watching it like, this is crazy, because I couldn't even like reason. But like now, if it happened again, or even if something happened and you didn't blow up as much, I wouldn't be like, oh shit, like, is he never going to speak to me because of this now?
Yeah.
Because I've learned that's just more natural to you to react like that. Whereas when it happened, I was like, because it hadn't happened towards me, I was like, oh shit, does that mean that like we ain't going to speak in that again? Because I was like, it's not worth all that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I brought it. That's why not to bring it up again and to harp on it because I don't want to do that. But it is like now I feel like we are, even though we've never actually met, it's like we are friends. I feel like I know enough about you where I can say that and actually mean it. And the fact that we can hold a damn near 3-hour conversation
Yeah.
with a movie that went in 20 different directions. Like basically we're holding this damn thing together. So I do think that's interesting, but I appreciate it, dude. Like this is what you work towards. I feel like when you make content on the internet, I feel like this is the ultimate goal of creators is to find other people to work with and ultimately just try to have a good time doing what you enjoy doing. And we've been lucky enough so far to have figured out how to do that just by
And I
chance.
want to say as well, like, just to like reinforce it again. Notice, guys, that we, as you can see, have a lot of different opinions on things, and we don't always
Yeah.
agree on stuff. But
No.
look, it doesn't look. We're not even at each other's. Like, we might have been the other week. Or
Yeah.
Jack might have been towards me. But
you're
we're
so
not
that's how you know that you care. That's how you know that you care. You know, Chris Rock had a bit of one of his stand-up specials where he said basically, if you've never thought about committing murder, you've never been in love. The same thing go if you've never thought about fucking punching your friend in the face, are you really friends? Are you really friends? Like that's a rite of passage, especially with us, you know, manly men and blah blah blah, all that bullshit. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And I wouldn't have it any other way, dude. Like this is fun. I look
I just
forward
wanted to say
it.
to people that watch it, just the main point is that you
Yeah.
can be friends with someone and have different opinions on things. Just because you don't agree on everything does not mean you have to wish cancer and fucking death and shit on another person. Like, don't
Yeah.
do that. You end up like stressing and hurting yourself more than you realize when you even send messages like that to people.
And there is something I do want to cover. I don't know, maybe we could do it where it doesn't have to be on a live stream. We could pre-record it or we could do it live. But there is one thing I wanted to bring up. And I know we've been going for almost 3 hours, so I won't do it now, especially because it's not really connected to the movie in any way. But I did get a few comments in the past year, and I'm sure maybe you have, I'm not sure, but I've gotten a few comments from people that have been like, you know, I would love to do what you're doing. I never would have the confidence to be able to do it.
We've definitely got to do a show on it already.
Yeah.
I'm already in. We're doing something on it. Because as well, this ties into like some of my videos where I'm trying to like motivate people and that. So I'm already in.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know how we can cover it, how we're gonna do it, but he hit me the other day when I was doing a video, and I have to go to I'll watch the video you mentioned before because I've been in here just creating shit, so I have to catch up on everything because I go through these moments in mania where I just go through a tear of just recording, and then I gotta try to piece it together later. But I will catch up on your channel, and I definitely want to do that just because I don't want people to ever, here's a little teaser for you, I don't ever want people to get it confused and think that because I have this microphone in front of my face or this camera is on in front of me and I'm speaking to somebody halfway across the world, and we make it seem like we're comfortable. I am freaking the fuck out right now. I promise you. the entire time that I'm doing this. I'm shaking. I can't. It's this whole thing is nerve wracking. It never is. I've been doing it for a year and a half. I hope it never goes away. I hope it never goes away. There was a video on a comedian YouTube, Vic DiBitetto. He was about to go on stage before his comedy show. The MC was out there announcing him, and he had his camera out like this, and he looks in the camera and he goes, if you don't feel like you're ready to shit your pants before you have to go on stage, it's time for you to get out of the business. It's not for you anymore. He's like, I've been doing this shit for like 20 years, and every time before I go on stage, I feel like I'm gonna shit my pants, and I need that to be the way it is. Basically, it never goes away. You just have to be able to go, I'm gonna move past it. Don't allow that little voice in the back of your head to tell you that you're not good enough, because if that was the case, I wouldn't be here right now. This show wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be happening. But I have to ignore it.
There's one. This is going to be the last thing I say, but I was watching a documentary on The Undertaker the other day. It's like a retirement thing, but it goes through his career, and he's like interviews with him and stuff. And he actually said that, like, even when he does the odd appearance now and again, like, just he ain't been seen for years, he still gets butterflies when he's at the curtain waiting to walk out. And he's about 70 now, and he still gets the exact same feeling that he had from when he first ever done it. And I just wanted to say that because people look at him, like, his gimmick is the dead man, like a
Yeah,
funeral
no expression on his face at all whatsoever. Nothing.
Like, scared most of us as kids. And
100%.
In that, he's saying even now, he gets the exact same feeling. He's nervous before he goes out. And he's been doing it probably 3/4 of his life.
Well, real quick, I just want to add on, rest in peace to Animal or Hawk. I'm not sure which one of them. Animal, yeah. Rest in peace to Animal. Road Warriors are the fucking... They're the shit. Plain and simple.
They're both gone now, so...
I wanted to be those guys. I wanted to be those guys when I was a kid. I think those dudes are responsible for shaping part of my goddamn personality, because I thought they were the fucking coolest. And they still are. They still are.
I was watching some wrestling documentaries the other day, and I watched one with Animal, and he talked about Hawk, because obviously he'd already passed away. And I think they posted it on like the day or something that he died in respect to Animal, because they'd been keeping it to just put it out at some point. And he's obviously talking about the Legion of Doom and how they met and their careers and that. But yeah, man, rest in peace to him, because they... legends.
Legend, yeah, come on. You can't... Oh, man. Oh, man. You just... They're once in a lifetime. Sometimes it just... People come along and they just have a different energy and
I think at
aura.
some point we should do maybe a show about old wrestling and stuff, just because so many of the greats and that, and they're gone. Do you know what I mean? Even in wrestling, it's not just in music, and like so many that you like, especially like I'm watching old stuff now, and most of the time, over 50% of the people I'm watching they're not here anymore.
Yeah, and most unfortunately, a lot of like her Jen's nephew and little brother both just turned 15. There's so much stuff that they have no idea exists, and I don't know if they will like it all, but just, I mean, like, okay, if you take somebody like whoever the rebooted version of Mankind is, I can't think of his name off the top of my fucking head, but to be able to, there's so much shit that was around then that obviously time moves on and the spotlight has to be given to somebody else. I'm not opposed to that, but it would be nice to be able to go back and just kind of highlight some of the coolest shit that made us arguably partially who we are.
And the cool thing about that is as well, it goes into the storylines again. Not only I think nowadays they're actually better athletes on the whole, but
Yeah.
the storylines nowadays, it's the same as what we've been saying about the films. It's just not there.
Yeah, I 100% couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree
So
more.
I definitely, if you're up for it, I think it'd be really cool to do a show on wrestling as well at some point.
Definitely, I'm with that. So now we gotta add other horror movies. We gotta add wrestling shows and shit, dude. I'm with all that. I think it's a great idea. I say we do it. We'll plan it out. We'll figure it out. That's a lot of time, but it'll be worth it. I mean, dude, the whole point. I wanted to conquer, the algorithms anyway, which I know we're both solo. We're both working on projects, so make sure. Let me just get the plugs out again. BCHQ, YouTube, motivational speaking. He does reactions. Make sure you check out his channel. Give him a follow. You don't want to. This is bigger than reactions, right? But that's just trying to get your foot in the door. Figure this shit out. We got this show weekly. As you can see, we're adding stuff to it. I got the Laughing at Birds podcast every Saturday at 5 a.m. Check your local podcast listings. Next week, we'll be doing Bloodsport. Are we going to hold up on Tuesday again, or do you want to wait to see if we need to switch it to another day?
Yeah, I'll leave it for now, just in case anything comes up. But I'll definitely let you know, within enough time before that, anyway. But yeah, I'll just leave it for now, just in case.
Okay. All right, dude. Well, look, it's been damn near 3 hours. We covered a little bit of the Taoist Master. You can go back and you can watch Chinese Hercules or the Ong Bak reviews. Reactions, motivational speaking, movie reviews, podcasts, out. There's literally, is there anything we can't do? That is the question.
Just stuff that we haven't found yet that we're going to probably do as well.
Yeah. Listen, man, UK in the house, everybody in England, Wales, those of you in Australia, Spain, Turkey, Hungary, wherever you are in the world, I want to take a moment and thank you all for tuning in and supporting what I do and what BCHQ does on whichever platform you find us on. Rate and review and subscribe and all that bullshit. Hit the bells, notifications. We appreciate all of you, and we are going to bring you the best that we can in quality content. Hopefully all this will just improve as we go along. With all that being said, all the plugs are out of the way. Bloodsport next week. If you don't know, you better ask somebody, because we're taking over, motherfuckers. We will see you all next week. Pleasure as always. Looking forward to this, dude. I'm fucking excited. I will talk to you later. Have a good day, everybody. And most importantly, go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, dude.
Later, man.